It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, February 21st. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Atchison County Commission meeting. I would call the meeting to order and ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment. Okay, don't see any public comment, so any additions to the agenda? You guys have any?
I don't have any.
Yeah, I'd like a little time to talk about policy or book policy development. Just kind of a little brainstorming. I also want to mention another agenda item for next week briefly at the hospital at some point.
All right. Reading and approval of minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes from last week?
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. Commissioner comments and committee reports. Commissioner Rivas?
Just one thing we forgot to mention last week was County Day down at the Capitol. Totally missed that last week, but yeah, it was well attended. Kim was there, Wes was there, Joe was there, I was there, and Eric was there. And we got to go on the floor for a little while at the house and had a good turnout. Kim manned the table better than most of us most of the time, and it was nice. It was well represented.
Awesome. I enjoyed it last year. I planned to go, but no school threw me off. So
And also we got to meet with Representative Epley, and we talked with K.S.A. On the intersection of 116 and 59 highway, which has been an ongoing project of his. And so we had a good meeting there. And yeah, I forgot that too.
Good point. Yeah.
I don't have very much. I do have a meeting Thursday with the my kneecap board. I'm on the financial committee, and I've got to go to 1 o'clock and Thursday. So that's my upcoming meeting this week.
awesome. The only thing I just wanted to say was thank you to the constituents that reached out to me last week with questions on street treating and snow and ice removal. It gave me an opportunity to visit with Road and Bridge and better understand their processes and to really be able to explain that to the constituents of the routes and the road logs, and they're tracking everything we do. So it's a good opportunity for us to be able to educate the public and answer any questions that they have. So we appreciate you reaching out to all of us with questions and concerns on that. So. All right. Travis Grossman, Memorial Hall trustee.
Yes.
With the Memorial Hall update and
Yes.
grant approval.
Yeah. How are you guys
Welcome.
today?
Good, how are you?
Good. Did you, and I've got Scott Erickson in the back of the room here, moral support, just to listen in on the conversation. Did you get a copy of the link of the actual assessment that was done? So we got our money's worth. I have copies here I can leave for you if you'd like. Just about a tree. Okay, so it was sent in a link to Michelle. I was hoping that she'd pass it on, but I'll leave this for you in hard copy. You can take a look at it. It's pretty impressive. So as you recall, I came and requested funding from commissioners to have this project completed. This project, in total, was an assessment of Memorial Hall and some of its needs. We know we have tuck pointing issues. We know that we've got some lighting needs and some potential bathrooms, additional bathrooms. Do you want that one, good sir? That need to be looked at. In addition, my hope was also to possibly going down the road, renovate the actual stage area so that we could incorporate not only all of the sporting functions that we have in that building, but also potential performing arts and or national recording artists or national recording comedians come in to Atchison, and to again be able to relive the opportunity to have some of that enrichment from the outside world, so to speak, in Atchison again. So going down that path, we first knew we needed to get a hold of this assessment We've got that here, and they've done a really stellar job. All of the skills have been addressed, from engineering, HVAC, the masonry, you name it. They've got a really good run up on what the total cost is. And it's, I'd say it's probably a modest estimation that comes in at about $1 million all said, if we did everything on the punch list. Currently, the back page, the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Currently, I'm working on a grant on behalf of the trustees to the state of Kansas for the Sprint grant, and the Sprint grant is it's open for a whole bunch of economic development opportunities for organizations statewide. There's $30 million in the pot. The minimum request is $500,000. And it's honestly one of those state grants that when they throw it out, you really have to have something in the work. Because the deadline on it is just literally was less than a month. It was 27 days when they announced it, when it's due, and it's due the end of this month. So I've been scrambling to pick up the 1,000-word narratives that go into it and all of the budgetary paperwork that needs to go into this thing so that we can get it uploaded and a shot at potentially getting some money, if not all, which I doubt that would even I'd be happy with the 500,000 that we could put towards this project. That said, going down the road, I mean, it's at $30 million at 60 projects statewide. There were 200 and some people on that conference call. I'm sure it's going to be a competitive grant process. My hope is that more than half of those folks wouldn't be in a position to be able to pull off something. We just, by grace, we've gotten this project done. This assessment came in at the right time for us, short of having actual bids on the cost of the work. We do have the architect's summation on what some of these things would cost. So that's kind of where I'm at. There's also another state grant due at the end of this month that I think once I get this big one bid off, I'm going to try to throw our hat into that could either be, we could marry this. It could be part of this. If in fact we were granted this money, it would take us out of the running for the ARPA funds that we had hoped to put into this building, potentially going down the road, simply because they don't want to draw from two different pots of money. The Sprint grant comes from the same governmental money that came down the pipe with, during the COVID money and all that stuff. So they don't want to cross over, which I'd understand. In the event that we are not successful, I'll probably come back to you and ask for some of the items on this list. When you go through there, you'll see some blaring needs. I don't, in all honesty, don't use the facility that much during large events that we have, but currently the assessment is that we can comfortably do a 400-person event in there with the bathroom facilities that we have. The building itself can hold close to 1,970 people if it was tricked out with all the seating upstairs and additional bathrooms that it would need. So that's a pretty significant number. The hope is, and I've done some budgetary work on it, I'll be glad to email this stuff to you so you guys can have it. But just the budgetary rundown on these things, such that we could put together an event, a good outside, a nationally recorded country music artist, for example, and to do maybe 1, 2, 3, up to 4 of these events a year, potentially, which could draw the gross number spent on something like that would be anywhere from 58,000 to maybe 250,000 in the course of a year. That money would be driven from ticket sales, concession sales, underwriting from state corporations or foundations. It wouldn't come out of our pocket. It wouldn't come from the county necessarily. The point and purpose of all of that is to create a regional draw, economically, tourism, you name it, whatever you want to put it under, that would bring people from out of town into Atchison, give an excuse to stay the night in a hotel here in town, eat at a restaurant, possibly buy gas or do some shopping downtown on our commercial corridor. So that's really the drive to this, is to take this wonderful facility, our Memorial Hall, and although it does a great job serving us for our current needs, we'd like to be able to expand its offerings so it can then further service in all the ways it was built for, and get some of those great acts that we used to have. I think it was previous Commissioner Bauer that said he saw Ike and Tina Turner in the 60s at this, or maybe the 70s, I don't remember, at this venue. And to bring some of those names back to town and have that opportunity, we look to the Stifle Theater in Salina, Kansas as an example of how that can really work, where 4 or 5 times a year they have a season of nationally recorded music artists that come to Salina, and people from as far away as Atchison will drive out there for an overnighter to go see those concerts. That's kind of, if you will, a model that we could kind of establish. And there's several communities that have that, but that's just an example that comes off the top of my head. So anyway, that's my update. Here it is. It's grand, it's robust, and it's thorough, and I appreciate that.
Michelle just sent us the link for that and this.
Wonderful. So you've got this, you've got the grants, you can kind of see what I'm working on. We'll put it in, we'll know by I believe it's April is when they'll make their announcements as to whether or not we would get this grant. So fingers crossed, we can get
So
that
that-
in.
Grant, how
Yes.
does that obligate us?
Doesn't in any way. It's
I mean, there's no matching funds.
none necessary at
Okay.
all, not a dime. And you know how these things work from the state level. More than likely, they have their eye on a project or two that they're already going to fund, I would
Mhm.
imagine.
Right.
They're throwing it out there and whatever's left over, we're gonna grovel for, we mean cities, organizations like us. I'm really grateful that you guys were smart enough, forward thinking enough to allow us to get this project going. Had we not had this paperwork in hand, there would have been no way we could have picked this up. So luckily, between the four of us, we were able to turn and burn on this thing, and I'm thinking we have a pretty darn good shot at it. I mean, as good a shot as anybody with a professional backup to our points, which is, that's stellar. It's
So if they only fund $500,000 or whatever.
Right.
That's what you'll be able to get done unless we throw some more in. And
Yeah.
we could not put ARPA money on top of that.
correct. If we go down this route, we couldn't do it. Now, the other end of it is, maybe we would either go down, say, a foundational route or other funding source to actually get the money in play. The building's on both the state and the federal historic registry.
Yeah.
So we could leverage that for tax credits, which I've already been in conversation with an office that helps write those grants. Get those tax credits sent to the SHPO or State Historic Office of Preservation. And then again, sell those credits and repair ourselves for that expense. We could literally probably, if we could front $500,000 on this project, put $500,000 of the state money, do the entire thing and pay ourselves back in the end. It could really happen. We could, God willing, the creek don't rise, so to speak. We might be able to get this thing up at least in better shape than it is now for no money out of pocket outside of what we spent on the assessment. So it's a real godsend.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
A couple of things while you're here.
Yes.
We have an ad out for the trustee position,
Good.
and we cut it off, but we didn't have any applicants.
Okay.
We extended it again.
Okay.
And I believe we're cutting that off March 6th to open March 7th. So
Okay.
just to let you guys know, if you want to spread the word.
Okay, we can do that, sure.
I think we thought
Is
last.
it Mr. McKinney's position that's up? Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to him and he's interested in being reappointed.
Okay.
Okay, he should.
Well,
submit
Michelle
that.
reached out to me and asked for his contact, and I think that's what she had probably planned to do, was to
Okay.
reach out to him and ask him.
I think he just kind of assumed since he was. It used to be whoever was on a trustee, they just got reappointed unless there's some other action, so.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
we're.
you changed it,
yeah,
haven't you?
Yeah, we're putting it out to the public so everybody knows of a vacancy and has an opportunity to
Right.
bring someone on board like Travis did last time. So a couple other things of just the integrity of Memorial Hall.
Yes.
What I've witnessed through the recreation sports is children running amok and tearing up the building.
Okay,
I walk in and they're jumping on the boiler, the heating units and the water fountain and peeling the plaster off the walls. So just, I know you're worried about the integrity of the
Sure,
building. I
sure.
wanted to share that so that there's some oversight of kids
sure, great.
during that.
I guess we'd lean to our management for oversight in that situation so that you're aware of it. That's
Yeah.
great. It's good to hear.
And then we just spoke about the RFP for mowing and unlocking the building. And that's something, again, that I don't want to speak out of turn, but we had discussed having that be put back on the staff of Memorial Hall to unlock the building and to mow the yard instead of having our maintenance
Okay.
of the county
All right.
do it. So,
Janitorial.
yeah, and
Instead-
janitorial, sorry, and cleaning
Okay,
up after events
Okay.
and all of that.
sounds
So
good.
just
Well,
the-
it's good to know. We'll certainly bring it up from the trustees and then we can discuss it with the rec commission, see how we want to solve that issue going forward.
Okay.
Appreciate it. It's
Yep,
good to
just
know.
want to make sure,
I appreciate it. yeah.
communicate that with you guys while you're here and no, that sounds exciting. Good luck.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for all the hard work because yeah, that facility could definitely use some love.
Yes, sir.
I, for one, am fairly skeptical of bringing in musical acts because it's still, there's nothing on there about the acoustics and the expectations of the public nowadays are a lot different than they were back.
Sure.
I can Tina Turner, we're here.
Sure.
So, they, people are very choosy about what venue that, that would lend itself to good sound. So, I mean, I commend the idea of it. I would really hesitate whether this would be the facility that would be conducive to that.
Noted.
All right, well, thank you so
Great
much.
document, great work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the info.
You bet.
So,
Yeah.
we brought that up, makes me think, so will this get the stage back to where it has it?
If we
right
went,
equipment?
if we went all, no, it wouldn't. That's a
Okay.
that's a good ask. If we went down this path, this would clear the stage, put in the infrastructure for the sound and lighting necessary, but it
Okay.
wouldn't reestablish line sets and things of that nature.
So things like the lighting or like acoustics that
right.
has to be addressed.
So if we did a particular, say we had a country act come in, we'd have to budget in, which there is in a pro forma, budgeted in production is what they call it, which would be licensed sounds. I mean, outside company, bring their equipment in, they would
Yeah.
fly speakers, they would fly sound, similar to what we do at Lake Fest, only
Right.
indoors.
Right.
So, I mean, that gets around some of your issues. Certainly, we don't have a speaker system for that now. That's why you hire professionals for that. Then they have their monitoring issues and systems, and that way they have their in-air,
And
all
those-
of that.
Those needs vary by group. as
They
well,
do,
so
they
it's
do.
easier to-
Yeah.
Got it.
Now, we could go down the road where we put in all the new line sets and all of that and have an actual working theater. I don't see going forward immediately that's the direction we want to go. I don't know that we want to absolutely make a brand new theater back in there. More or less just create an area where staging could take place and then turn around and present to an audience. Is kind of the idea. And it would be rented chairs that would come in over our gym floor because we don't want to. We want to keep the gym intact. We have a lot of sporting events we do there. We want to keep that intact. It'd just be more or less of the 4 events a week or a year, I would say, over a weekend, a Saturday or something.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, sir.
Another thing would be if we bring acts in, what about beverages, alcohol sales on county property? I mean, that would be
It's
a,
been done in the past. There's a precedence for it.
We just talked about that in the past 2 years and we left it up to the trustees.
That's right. The trustees have had, matter of fact, we had, what was the, help me out,
Class
Scott.
reunion.
Thank you. Gold, 50,
Oh,
Was it?
Golden grad.
Golden Grads, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a bar there for that
Yeah.
particular event.
Okay.
So it's been done in the past and could be again in the future too.
Yeah, I remember that question coming up and we kind of deferred to the trustees to
Right,
figure out how you want to handle that.
sounds good.
Okay.
Answer.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Thanks, sir.
Thank
You bet.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Kim Glover, Noxious Weed, 2023 chemical bid opening. Three bids.
Okay, we have 3 bids. The first one is from MFA Incorporated. So this one, it looks like 240 amine in the 2.5 gallon boxes is going to be $18 a gallon. Cordon in the 2.5 gallon boxes is going to be $64 a gallon. Outrider, $14.25 an ounce. Remedy, $61 a gallon. Escort, $2 an ounce. Pasture Guard, $110 a gallon. And the Crop Select for Activator 90, $9 a gallon. And then the bulk amine is $17 a gallon. So the total bid for everything that we asked for through MFA is going to be $51,470. The second bid is through Nutrient Solutions. Amine is going to be $17.99 a gallon, Tordon $49.40 a gallon, Outrider $14.15 an ounce, Remedy $61.40 a gallon, Escort $1.95 an ounce, Pasture Guard $103.50 a gallon, Activator 90, 15.50 a gallon, and the bulk amine is gonna be $17.99 a gallon for a grand total of $49,906.10.
You say that again, 49,
$49,906.10.
thank you.
And Dustin made a note on here that all products are readily available.
It's good to know.
Yeah. The third bid is from Van Beest. Amine, $18 a gallon, Tordon, $49.44 a gallon, Outrider, $14.19 an ounce, Remedy, $58.49 a gallon. Escort is $2.04 an ounce, Pasture Guard, $97.94 a gallon. Activator 90. They don't actually have Activator 90. They replaced that with a Brewer 90, and that one is $9.84. And the bulk amine, $21.04 a gallon for a grand total of $48,861.40.
Read that total again, sorry.
$48,861.40.
Is there a replacement comparable?
I have not heard of that one, so I would have to look into that. So what I would like to do is have a week to do a bid comparison and then come back next week with our recommendation.
They're all close.
And then I know that Joe was next with the Morton Road bids, but I wanted to see if we could go over the road policy before we swap places.
Yep, and I had one suggestion.
Do you have a pen? Can you see? Yep. The first page, we didn't really make a change. We just moved a paragraph that was on the second page to the first page. We were thinking that if we addressed that paragraph on the first page, maybe that would promote reading farther instead of just kind of stopping and saying that, you know, this or that does not apply to me. And then the other change was on page 4 under private entrance culverts, where we added if an existing entrance is being modified to increase volume of traffic, a new entrance culvert application must be submitted. Example for that would be upgrading field entrance to residential or commercial use.
The second one, completely fine. My perception of reading that first change of the Atchison County Road and Bridge Superintendent has the authority for determining it.
Mhm.
I would almost like it to read something more of will determine instead of has the authority. I think when you read, I don't know what it is, that sentence of like, well, you have the authority versus you will determine the necessity, like it is it's your job versus has the authority. I don't.
Don't make it the
Yeah.
ambiguity of, it doesn't need it.
Again, it's.
No, and that's why we have everybody look at this. Because
Yeah, I mean, I like it and I know what we're trying to say, but it just. Certain
Well-
people may read it and be like, oh, I don't,
Yep.
I don't
Yeah,
care what their
yeah.
authority is, I'm going to,
Yeah.
versus this is what we want you to make that determination, if that makes sense.
So with that change, you guys would be
Mhm,
good with moving forward?
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, because Roger had made some corrections on his application, so then we can put all of those together and have the one final document.
Perfect. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
We need to have a motion on that, right?
Probably since the fine line above, we approved it in September 6th. So yes, I would look for a motion to approve the updated changes to the Atchison County Road Policy as presented February 21st.
Well, we don't know what the final wording is, so
Well, exactly what you just said.
I mean,
That's what I'll change it to.
Please read
The
these.
Atchison County Road and Bridge Superintendent will determine the necessity, responsibility, and location for a private entrance with or without a culvert.
Yes.
okay,
So moved.
Sorry about that.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Thank you.
I have one thing, if I can slip in before we do the Morton Road. Is the PO for the retriever.
Okay.
To County Clip. For $10,072.20. It was originally $12,210, but due to the Sourcewell contract, they took off $2,197.80. And that is with Can Equip, and I guess you can.
One thing I would just like to notate is I had feedback from a constituent giving me details on who previous road and bridge folks had sold an old one. And we've already looked into purchasing that back as a used model that was over half of what a new one comes with. So just notating that we've looked into it, we've done our due diligence, and the recommendation from Road and Bridge would be for a purchase order in the amount of $10,072.20 to Can Equip in Wamego, Kansas. Do I have a motion to approve?
Also move.
Second.
And that money's coming out of our special machinery, so.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Your little Joe's asking you guys. What do you end
Okay.
Is a pen for you too, or am I reading them for you?
I can read them, I think. I hope.
Do you want me to zip them or you want to?
Go ahead if you don't mind.
We're running about 4 minutes ahead of schedule. I don't know if it matters if you want to wait until. If they looked at our agenda and saw 10:30, that was when we were gonna open them, so. Just trying to make sure everybody's.
Then we'll kind of discuss this. Gabe's here. And unfortunately, we didn't look at the 20th as being one of our holidays. So one of these evidently was mailed in or dropped off earlier, and we had one that was dropped off to me yesterday afternoon. And then little Joe's brought theirs this morning because of the holiday and no one being here available. So just wanted to let you know that. This one is little Joe's. Proposed latest date start is August 1st, 2023. And the total is $1,571,299.15. For the mill and overlay on Warden Road. The second one is from Harbor Construction,
How do you spell it?
HARBOUR. And proposed latest date start is June 15th, 2023. With the bid of $1,699,692.55. Third one is Herzog. And let's see. The date, latest date starts. But it's $1,902,087.25.
No date there at all.
But I'm not seeing it.
In conversations with them, they were later in the year, that's on the first time frame thereafter.
It'd be when, pardon me.
At least in conversation with them, they told me that there was no way they could start before August, and we're just hoping to get it within this season. So they had indicated a very busy schedule.
So with those being said, I think we need to look over everything, look at the dates. And I'll talk to Gabe some and we'll bring it back to you guys next week and let you decide what you think is best.
Okay.
Sounds good to
Thank you.
me.
All right.
Thank you for attending.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So, we've already went through the road policy feedback approval, so we're running ahead of schedule. Mr. Irons, is scheduled for 11, but I know he is on here. Mr. Irons, if you would like to go ahead and.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep,
Loud and clear, I hope.
yes, you're just coming through good.
Okay, first of all, thanks very much for inviting me to participate in this meeting. This is about designating a US bicycle route along the eastern edge of Kansas, basically from the Nebraska to the Oklahoma line. The designation is US Bicycle Route 55. So the US bicycle routes are part of a national system. I suspect some of you are familiar with the organization named AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials. That's the membership organization of all state DOTs. So KDOT is a member of AASHTO. And I'm with the Adventure Cycling Association. We're a national nonprofit, 50,000 members. We do a whole bunch of stuff around bicycle travel. So our mission is to inspire, empower, and connect people to travel by bicycle. So this is fits right in with what we do, and the US bicycle route target audience is people who are doing multi-day, multi-week, and perhaps even multi-month bike trips. So they're basically bicycle tourists. They're spending $150 a day on average, maybe more, staying in motels, eating in restaurants, campgrounds, visiting parks and that sort of thing. Currently, there's nearly 19,000 miles of designated US bicycle routes in the country in 34 states and the District of Columbia. Most of those miles have been designated in the last decade or so. Kansas already has US Bicycle Route 76, an east-west route across the state, and US Bike Route 66, which cuts just a little clip on the very southeast corner of the state. So adding US Bike Route 55 would be about a 40% increase in total mileage in the state. Each county, each city that approves the route needs to tell the KDOT that they support the use of their streets, roads, and trails for this purpose. There's no cost involved. I know that's the first question on everybody's mind is how much is this going to cost us? It's basically, again, using existing roads, streets, and trails. It's a total of about 20 miles or about 30 miles in Atchison County on county roads coming out of the city of Atchison, which has already approved it, and going into Jefferson County, which has already approved it. At this point, 60% of the needed approvals are in hand for designating this route. And it will only be designated once all the counties and all the cities have approved, and the state park in the southern part of the state that uses the one of the rail trails. So again, no cost. Signage is a possible future opportunity. The state has signed US Bike Route 76. I don't know the details of how they might have funded that, but obviously they're not in a position of imposing funding costs on local agencies. I believe they have provided the funding for that, but each route is determined separately. So again, there's no cost to the county to do this. It's a mapping project. It's not a construction project. And if the county looks at the proposed route, which I can go through in a little bit of detail if you'd like, but if the county looks at the proposed route and says, oh, we have some ideas for some changes, we can accommodate that. Obviously, if it changes where it connects to the city of Atchison or changes where it connects to Jefferson County, we'd have to negotiate with that with them. The way that KDOT can hear from the county is either from a county official sending a letter to KDOT, or the county commission obviously could pass a resolution in support. I have provided to Michelle examples of text for both of those, should the county choose one or the other as a way to do that. And some counties and some cities, the city board or the county commission will pass a resolution and then direct a county official to like the county clerk or somebody else to send a letter. So you can do that way. I guess that's probably all that I need to say. I guess the one question people ask, well, what are the benefits? And the benefits are obviously improved routes for bicycle travelers. It's a low impact form of tourism. It doesn't result in traffic jams or air pollution or anything like that. And obviously for small communities along the route, that small restaurant, that small campground, that small motel, if there's a bike shop, the people who live along US Bike Route 76 in Kansas, which has been in place before it was even a US Bike Route, have been in place as a long distance bicycle route across the country, established for the summer of 1976, the bicentennial celebration. The communities along that route know that they're on a bike route. They see the bikes all the time. They benefit from the tourism. They enjoy the discussing people's bicycle travels. People come from around the world to do this. And that is what it brings to the county. So it puts it on the map for the state, for the region, for the nation. And people do come from out of the country, say, I want to travel in the United States. I want to travel by bicycle in the United States. Where can I do that? And once you're defined as a US bike route, then people can readily find that travel route. So with that, questions that anybody might have.
In looking at your map, I see the route from Atchison into Jefferson County. Is there a route coming into Atchison County to get to the city of Atchison?
Yeah, so US Bike Route 55 will go north of Atchison in conjunction with US Bike Route 50 up to the Nebraska line, and that the jurisdictions along that section have already been approved, so it'll be co-designated north of Atchison as
Okay.
US Bike Route 50. And it basically goes out of Atchison, picks up State Route 7, cuts over through Troy, I believe it is.
Okay.
And then yeah, through Troy and then back on 7 and up into Nebraska. And US Bike Route 50 is an east-west route, basically would come through Missouri and cross the bridge at Atchison and then connect on north. So the two routes will be contiguous from that point north.
Okay. Sounds good. Well.
And just a quick note on 50. So all the agencies, there's only 3, but all the agencies that need to approve US Bike Route 50 have done so. Missouri is issuing a concurrence letter to KDOT that they agree with the connection point to Missouri. Nebraska has already done so. So that probably will be approved. That section from Atchison up to the state line will probably be approved in the spring round of the AASHTO submissions. And I should also mention, routes can be changed twice a year. So every 6 months, AASHTO has a special committee on route numbering meeting. They look at requests across the country for federal highway changes, US highways, interstate highway changes, and US bike route changes. And so those changes can be made. So in the case of something happens that an improved road is made available, a trail is developed, there's a need for a change that can happen every 6 months.
I have a question. Now that if this designation comes into effect, does that, or does the route or the proprietors of this, do they sanction races or group rides or anything like that that would be utilizing these routes? Because I could see that the existing infrastructure could handle sporadic or the casual rider, but when you have a ride like Bikes Across America had here just a couple of years ago, when you've got many riders at one time, and they came through our county, which we loved having them here, but with the time we had road construction and things that were that needed to happen, and it was not very conducive to bike riding, and we were never notified of that. So I mean, I hate to have, I was just wondering if there is some kind of mechanism that if, say, the stretch that's, and if it's county road or, if it would be in the city, is there notification or if there's anything for that, if you're gonna have this big bike ride coming up the next year, that infrastructure could be completed or, you know, not taking place, you know, because it was a major imposition at the time. Edwards Road was in horrible condition and that was the route scheduled at the time. So I just,
Yeah, so who owns this when it's done? KDOT and ASHTO in recognition of it. So it's just like any other interstate highway network. And if you think back to the Lincoln Highway in the 1920s and 30s, you know, states had established that and it became a federal highway. But neither Adventure Cycling or obviously KDOT is in the business of hosting large bike events. If somebody chose to do that and use this designated route, just as they could use designated route US Bike Route 76 across the state if they wanted to stage an event, that's not something that my organization does. It's obviously not something that KDOT does. One would hope, obviously, that event organizers would do the groundwork and talk to communities and find out whether there's going to be construction and so on. But as you point out, that doesn't always happen. But that's not really has the only connection between designation as a US bike route and an event would be that an event organizer would look at that and say, oh, there's a route we could use. I'm not aware that that's been done widely across the country. If you're familiar with Ragbri in Iowa, perhaps, where 10,000 people ride across the state every year on a different route every year. And they do a huge amount of organizing in advance of that. But to the extent that you've had this experience with an event that came through and didn't apparently do any necessary organizing, that's not, if they spotted a US bike route and said, we want to use it, obviously there's nothing to prevent them from doing that, just as there's nothing to prevent them from using any other county road or any other state highway. But there's nothing associated with US bike routes and events. So this is a mapping project only.
yes, but I would anticipate that it would increase bike traffic, and, you know, we want to do it safely. So
right, and that's a question we frequently get. Well, how much will this increase bike traffic? And the short answer to that is nobody can answer that. Sorry, but just pick a number out of thin air, a couple thousand a year, which would be a pretty hefty increase. And certainly the small communities along the route would really notice that. In a 200-day season, that's 10 people a day. And as you mentioned, you know, isolated folks, onesies, ones and twos. So the communities along the route would notice it. Bigger communities might not, but small communities would notice it, but it wouldn't change the traffic patterns in any way, shape, or form, unlike an event, unlike a race. And again, I can only hope that event organizers do what they should do by way of groundwork, but we're not aware that these long distance point-to-point rides routes are attracting events that may come in the future, but we're not aware of that happening over the last decade or so.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd look for a motion to adopt resolution number 2023 sorry, I can't remember what the last one was.
I have 15, 18.
Yes.
Okay. 1518, a resolution of the Board of Atchison County Commissioners approving and supporting the development of the United States Bicycle Route 55 through Atchison County as designated by the American Associates of State Highway and Transportation Officials. Do I have a motion?
Yep,
to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Irons, for the information.
Thank you very much. And Michelle has all my contact information. If anybody has any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out, and I sure appreciate your support. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm getting one with a new date.
Perfect. Yeah, we're updating the date and then we'll sign. That's good enough. When I have it, I will let you know. Awesome, thank you. Okay. All right, well, we're still at a schedule, but the rest of the items I put on here for discussion. First of all, solid waste. Stacy was gonna be here today, but she welcomed a new grandbaby in the middle of overnight. So she called this morning and
That's not
so
a very good excuse.
congratulations to Stacy on her new grandbaby. But everything else, these were just items that her and I had worked on last week. And I wanted to make sure that you guys were up to date on. Go ahead and sign this. Sorry, no, you're good. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. So the rough draft she did of the Atchison County cleanup flyer. A couple things we had talked about is just adding the county logo and adding Blishmai's logo. Just they donated the trash bags for the efforts this year. So making sure to give them kudos where that's concerned. Also, the city, as of last week, had offered to give 2 Packers on Sunday also. I think they're just working out logistics for drivers, but they definitely want to be part and help the effort. So that was exciting. Her and I were kind of throwing out ideas of where we should sit those, because we'll have the recycle center with a roll off out there. And we were thinking maybe 4th and Main for a city packer and possibly like Horshlands or Mar Hill-ish. That way you're kind of like spread all over. If you guys have better ideas, please just share them. We were just kind of brainstorming so that, you know, whatever area you're in, it was a kind of covered with a option to dump your bags.
Used to went down by the Chamber of Commerce or Gasoline Alley is where we used to do it.
Okay.
Citywide, but I mean,
Is it,
people used to go in there.
devil's advocate, is it better to have one central location if it's already loaded on vehicles, that they have just one simple location to drive into, or
I think so.
Okay,
instead of having
so you want
multiples?
them all at recycle center then?
Yeah, wherever it's at, I think Eric's got a
Yeah.
good point.
I don't think that, I'd say the most easiest access in and around.
Perfect. So I'll get with Stacy on that and we'll make those tweaks and then bring it back next week for final approval, and then we can share the flyer with all the organizations and.
Also with that, then you would fill up one truck and then it could go, and then the next truck, it would be, instead of having several, maybe partially full.
Perfect. That's a great idea. Thank you. We will work on that. They checked this morning, the chemical spill has all been cleaned up, but there's no update on what that cost was yet. So just waiting on that. That was just a tote had been dropped into our our metal recycling.
Right.
And hauled away, and then a leakage in Advantage Metals parking lot. So Stacy and Jody were fantastic when they were notified. They got a hold of a crew to go in and clean it up and successfully got it all cleaned up and taken care of. So just waiting on the invoice for that.
Did they identify what the chemical was?
Not yet. So the gentleman that came and got the sample had alluded to the fact that it looked like maybe a food dye or some type of, but they didn't have the results back, so they don't know that yet. But they were waiting on that and then the final invoice for approval. But it was one of those situations where they couldn't wait till Tuesday, so she acted, and I think she did a great job staying on top of it and getting it taken care of immediately. So Advantage, I think they were surprised at how on top of it she was, because it was their problem. It's in their parking lot, but she got it taken care of. So great job to Stacy on that one. And then the backhoe that we had purchased, they delivered it, but the thumb is incorrect. So they're not using it, and we're holding payment until they hear back on the remedy for that. The thumb is a critical piece of the backhoe.
It's the gripper basically on the end of the.
And they even brought one out to demo, and Stacy and Jody have both explained, like, this is not the thumb we need for our operations. And so when it was supposed to be delivered, it was going to be the right one, but it wasn't. So right now, no additional info other than they're working with the company to get it corrected and remedied. So that's really all for that.
I don't know if this is the correct time to bring it in, because I just had a thought, and that while we're on solid waste. And that is, we're gonna have to somehow address the trash along our roads. And before budget season, would we consider maybe having at least a part-time person or something that would be able to go to these sites and pick up trash? I mean, we're gonna, one way or another, we're gonna have to address it, because it's getting bad. And I don't know whether that is just enforcement of law enforcement up, you know, and I hate calling the law out on the public too, but I mean, when we've got sites that are and multiple complaints from multiple areas, I think we're gonna have, that's just more of an observation right now. I don't know how we want to work it in, or if that's a budget topic, if we want to consider it at that time,
Well, are you talking about
maybe a.
loads not being tarped down and spillage, or are you talking about the actual dump sites off? Like,
It's lost trash off of people going to the dump.
Okay.
And possibly even, you know, I don't know who all's hauling out there, but, and it happens on at the western site too, east of Muskota.
Yeah.
You know, I see it, I mean, all the time there, but it's not to the effect of 286 road. It's really bad, but I that could be opened up in the Pandora's box, because there's other trash sites with, then we'd be expected to clean them up too. So I don't know how to address it, but the trash along the roads is gonna need to be addressed. And maybe that's a budget time that we consider personnel or what it would take to clean them up. So
Is there a sign anywhere going towards the transfer station, either direction about having those tarps?
yes,
I don't ever see anything, but
Yes.
you know,
and
you know,
that's
while after a sign, that sign becomes just part of the scenery, you know?
right, right. That's new. You see it, you notice it,
Yeah.
and then like you say, it becomes part of the scenery. So I
Maybe just a discussion with the sheriff to ask if maybe they can step up a little
Mhm.
when they can, as far as maybe just a little more oversight
And like I say, Pandora's box is if you have someone that's picking it up, people be a little less likely to tarp their loads than they are now, because it's like, well, we're paying for it. So I know
It's such
It's-
a, yes, I think that this is a good conversation to have and to come up with a solution. I mean, we know that constituents are frustrated. We've gotten several emails, phone calls. I think it was uplifting to me that people are watching our meetings. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, and there were constituents that live on out that way that were following and saw trash come out, called dispatch, they sent a sheriff, and there was remedy. So it's kind of a, you know, everybody has to work together, because unless you catch them in the act, it's hard to.
Well, as people get to the transfer station, I know it's kind of doing it after they get there, but at least maybe they could have some kind of flyer they hand out and say, hey, you know, your load really wasn't tied down right. You need to do it better next time, because we're gonna start enforcing this. I mean, I think maybe just more of an educational campaign. So you may have some that are fairly regular running out there, and it's easy. I mean, I get it. You know, it takes a few extra minutes to tie something down.
And I've seen people along there too, they didn't have their load tarped, but we're watching, and I've seen people stop, run back and get their stuff, or go back
I've done that.
and I've done it too. And so, you know, you could see the awareness, you know, they weren't doing it properly, but they did clean up after themselves. But when you've got sacks, and then when they get mowed into and it gets scattered, and then you've got animals dragging the stuff out,
Right.
So I know we've had these discussions internally several times.
Mhm.
What are our options? I mean, we know the 2 state statutes of tarping and that we know of. What can commissioners, and the littering one, securing loads on vehicles and littering were the 2 state statutes. But as a board of county commissioners with no authority to, I mean, write tickets or do any of the things, what can we do to ensure that we're doing our due diligence to stop it?
Encourage enforcement. You know, and that's both the, I guess really be both the city law enforcement and the county law enforcement to have things start or secured. And I think the other side's education, and you know, that maybe it's public announcements of some sort. Maybe it's handing out a flyer at the transfer station. You know, I think a lot of people, they realize, gosh, I really do that better. They'll do it. I mean, I think a lot of people will do better if you just remind them, hey, you know, that you're gonna get a ticket next time possibly, you know. I don't know what you can do.
Yeah, I don't either that or take over the actual take, you know, which would be a cost. I don't like that a bit, but having actually someone physically once a week go along and pick these sites up, it would be costly. I don't know what else you would need, like a side by side with a bed on it where they could actually get off the road and, or, you know, or.
I'm with you though, of like, you're driving out there and you lose something, oh, they're gonna pick it up this week, you know, versus.
I've thought about it both ways.
Yeah,
But you know, we've went down this road before and had awareness campaigns and things too.
Yeah.
It seems like it lasts for a very short window and then it goes back. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm just bringing this up because it has been one of the habitual complaints, and don't mean that as a negative. I mean,
Right.
it's
a problem.
Yes, it's a problem that's been here when I started, and I know we've made several efforts to make the public more aware, and it don't last very long. So I think we need to keep that on the burner for now.
Pat, did you have any input for us?
No, I mean, there's already a statute in place, and so it's already unlawful activity, if you will. Enforcing that requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody actually violated it. That requires having somebody see it or having some evidence, video, something. Sometimes if something falls off, you might be able to build make a case that it came from a specific place, like if it had bills in it or something, but even that is it's not bulletproof, certainly. So the sheriff is probably a better one to talk to about how to investigate crime than I am, because he's done it a lot more than I have. So
Maybe this is wild out of the box, but if someone worked with solid waste or for the solid waste department, could they be designated or deputized or whatever the word would be, that they could do that or could enforce it without having to have a actual deputy on scene?
Well, they could certainly do reports and they can sign long form complaints. So yes, they couldn't write tickets, but you can do the same charging through, like you don't get if there's a murder case, you don't get a ticket for it. There's a long form complaint. You can use that same kind of long form to write a traffic infraction.
Okay.
So yeah, they could do that for sure.
Thank you. All right, Monica, the Director of Community Corrections, had reached out to myself last week. They have 2 openings on their JCAB board. So Michelle was going to put an ad out for that one as well. So we have Memorial Hall trustees, we have JCAB board openings, and we have a Walnut Township treasure, right? Treasure open, that are all advertised on our website and going to be put on social media. So I just wanted to let you guys know of that, since she reached out to me, so you guys know, because I know you're serving on the board, so you'll be aware of that. And then the safety committee, there was a question, we didn't follow up on when we tabled that at our organizational meeting for additional input. I gathered the input from department heads, and shared it with HR, and the safety committee, is working at doing Columbus Day training, so it's not on one person, and the safety committee is made up of a representative from all departments, so it'll be a good group to put it together, so it's fruitful for everyone, or at least everyone can have the input.
Is every department there?
In the safety committee.
Does every department show up to this?
They knew I was gonna cough, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Where I'm going is I wonder, I mean, it seems to me that. So a lot of people have the day the courthouse is closed, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because what new to me is if I get this wrong, just tell me.
No, yeah,
That you've got EMS that's on 24-hour shifts and you got sheriff. You know, at senior village, there's people in these facilities that really can't participate. They still have to work their regular job. You know, meanwhile, the people who do this, there's gonna be a movie involved and kind of a fun time of day too, so. There's a little bit of an inequity there, I think. I don't know how to balance that out. I mean, the majority of the employees of the county can't participate, I would say. But if you add all those together, I mean, so I'm just questioning whether we need to look at a different way of doing this down the road, or how do those people have their same time to do this stuff? And plus, a lot of the training, EMS and sheriff and senior village, they all have training they have to do professionally with all their fields. So,
yeah,
I just wonder if this is a good idea, long-term, is there maybe something different we should do, or,
yeah, I mean, all of that's good feedback.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna answer Casey's question,
Yeah.
sorry, about attendance. So you don't have necessarily everyone attend the meetings all the time. You have some departments, I mean, if they can attend, then they do. If they can't, they don't. But as far as actually every department representative attending, absolutely not. You don't have full representation at every meeting.
But they have a seat at the table, right? If
Oh,
they're
yes.
willing.
Everyone, absolutely.
They could, everyone could show up,
Okay.
yeah. there-
If they want to show up, absolutely. I mean, it's a discussion. Everybody discusses everything. I mean. It's discussed, stuff is voted on, just like you guys vote on things, you know.
Okay.
But as far as actually everyone attending who could attend, no. But everyone does have I mean, not most, but every department does have, or they should have a representative that should be attending. But they don't always attend because like you've stated as well.
Yeah.
You know, they've got other things going on lately.
It depends on the agenda too. I mean, if they know what, you know, there's something that's pertinent to their department, sure, they're there.
Well, we tabled it and I just put it on there because we never discuss it, which we can continue to, I mean, it's still several months off. And if we don't feel like it's the right thing, then
Well, I'm not saying it's not the right thing. I just want it needs to be really thought through as far as how the impact and how it balances out with all the departments.
which and now being on the safety committee instead of just one department in charge, that could be a good conversation. Or do you meet monthly?
Monthly, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe your next meeting you could
Okay, they just had one. I was unable to make this last meeting, but
Maybe
tried to
in-
make it.
March, you guys could visit about it and come back to us with kind of what our thoughts are.
And I know in the past, I've even wondered about, instead of having like. Maybe instead of one big group training, maybe sheriff's department does training just for that day for theirs that's pertinent to them that they need. Not necessarily training that's gonna encompass everybody in, you know. There could be a training that would maybe the morning you would have, the first two sessions would be things that everybody where employees would benefit from, but then maybe they need to break off because the road and bridge would have totally different training needs than sheriffs and vice versa. So.
Well, the other thing is, you know, that's a day when the banks are closed, right? And so a lot of financial institutions are closed, but some of those people are not working and then they may even go pay their taxes or go get their something renewed or whatever. So it's almost like having the courthouse closed. I kind of wonder about that.
Well, I don't think that is like the treasurers, they couldn't even be open that day, could they? Isn't the state closed on that day?
See, I don't know how that all ties together. I'm just asking, you know.
Because, I don't think they can,
And I think.
I know on other times we ran into that where the, since the state was closed, we were at the mercy of the state access into their data systems.
Statewide, all county treasurers' offices are closed.
There are those holidays, yes.
It's interesting.
Sorry, I was just looking back at. So just because when we approved the holidays for 2023, Columbus Day wasn't part of that. So Columbus Day was a separate.
Mhm.
Okay, I was just wondering if this discussion had already been taken care of, but it's not listed in the holidays we approved, so.
They come to work at the training. Yeah. Okay.
I think Columbus Day, it looks like it is a holiday for the courts, but it is not a holiday for the state of Kansas. So
Okay.
I think state offices are largely open, federal offices are closed, and the courts are closed.
Interesting. That's quite. Have a mess.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
we'll put that on the next safety committee then.
Perfect. Okay, next, and I know, Pat, I know you had sent me some responses, but just, to make sure, so, one of the waste management, our transfer company from solid waste, Hams, was stuck last week on a township road. And Tim from the township had called me and inquired about it. Several years ago, Bill Falk was told that the county had told Hams to take a shortcut and not travel 286th to use Neosho and Osage, which I addressed with all of our county folks, and nobody on staff has ever given those directions to not use our roads and to use the township road. So that was taken care of, but they were wondering what their authority is to have Shannon Township put up signs that just no commercial traffic on those. So
Will that apply to semis full of grain? That's probably heavier than the trash truck.
I don't,
Well, it would depend on how a resolution would be written by them, and I don't represent them, and I haven't drafted a resolution
Yeah.
for them. Most of those resolutions have exempted agricultural vehicles.
Okay.
And so, but the answer to the question of if they have the authority, I think is yes, and there's a specific statute, 2005. And that we're in the township unit road system, and it divides up the authority. That the default used to be that the Board of County Commissioners had all the authority over all of the signs. And then that was changed with the Kansas Supreme Court decision imposing liability on a township. And so the thought was, if they're gonna be responsible for not having signs up, they ought to explicitly have the authority to put signs up. So the statute was amended to give them authority to do that. But that authority also, they didn't take away your authority, the Board of County Commissioners, to put those signs up if in your judgment, they're not doing it right. So they would have authority to do that if they wanted to do that. We have a resolution on no through commercial traffic on county roads. I don't know when the last time someone was issued a citation for that. I don't. off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but I haven't looked or really thought about it much. And I don't really know whether we have signs up or the extent that we have the signs up throughout the county to tell people about it. So,
I noticed the sign on 262. There's one at the highway, but I don't think people abide to it. I mean, I've seen,
Yeah,
so,
well, it's again, it's like the one that was talking about at the transfer station. It becomes part of the landscape and
Yeah.
once the news wore off, it doesn't get
yeah.
paid attention to. And since I've been a commissioner, I haven't heard of any suggestion that we give authority or credence to using a township road over our own. The nearest thing I can think of is I know that we had a bridge out or bridge construction, and we even contacted the township because we knew that their roads were going to be affected for the temporary detour. It wasn't a designated detour, but we knew that. So, and they were grateful for that. And I think they had to do increased maintenance on their roads, but I mean, it wasn't anything permanent or anything that, you know, we were trying to encourage township roads over our own, so.
So I will send Shannon Township, Mr. Henderson's response, just so they're aware of it, since they had asked that. And then last Tuesday after our meeting, I got a text about the 2023 tax sale date. So I'll let Pat,
Tax sale date, not a sales tax.
tax sale date, sorry.
Okay, that's what I already had that in my notation here. I'm going like.
That's a big mistake. I don't want to talk about that right now. No, they just asked me about this
It's okay, it's all right.
tax sale.
well, of course, we need to identify the properties that would be eligible for it. I gave a list of what I thought the properties were to Connie Ellerman. We talked about it last week. They're working through the list. Some of them have some CIC errors in them, I think. You know, like there are some properties that have only 2007 showed as owing. They had no other taxes, and then there are some that have been through prior tax sales that are still in there. But anyway, she's looking through those. When we have that list, we'll have to send them out to abstracting. I reached out to Keith Wilson and talked to them about they're willing to do it, and we kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit on the price. I think we were at $120 a parcel when we did it last time. I think I shouldn't say I think there were about 70 parcels that we sent for abstracting. It would probably be something similar to that, or maybe a little smaller even this time. And I know I'd really be speculating if we tried to set a date for a sale. Now, I don't have a list to send to abstracting. I don't know how long abstracting will take. Well, we should probably put it on the agenda again in 2 weeks or something. Talk about it if you want to.
Okay. And then as far as you said you would not suggest putting the properties back that didn't sell at the previous 2 sales, because that would require updated abstracting.
Yes.
So that's probably another process discussion. We've reached out to the city of Atchison several times to ask them if they have interest in those properties. And the last I heard was January 13th. They still hadn't determined whether or not they were interested in any of them in their land bank. So I had asked 4 or 5 times since, I don't remember, last October maybe, but and just kind of stopped because I didn't know what we want to do. We should have a process. We should have the same every year. I think that way.
I think if they're offered, they need to be offered as a package, so they don't pick out 1 or 2 and then.
Well, and
I mean,
also,
in the city limits.
also, I know there's been individuals that approach us about a particular parcel after, hey, I want to buy that parcel. Well, going back to advertising like we did with this corner and the one down on Sherman, what do we need to advertise for them? Because again, if I buy something from,
That's what we used to do down there.
yeah,
If the neighbor wanted the yard, one next to him, it says, okay, we got to put it out for.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So that
yes.
everybody has an
They only
opportunity.
use it one.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is
But
public.
yet it's to be transparent and clear, you know.
I don't think it's reasonable to expect the city to pick the whole package, because there's gonna be these orphan properties that just don't fit. It's like a wasteland or it's a hole,
Mhm.
and nobody wants it. So I don't know what you end up doing, but I think if there's a way to get rid of some of them,
Yeah.
just make it hurt smaller.
Well, and that's what we sent them the whole list and they were gonna get with their land bank and kind of pick through and say, all right, this fits our development criteria, this doesn't, and then let us know which ones. And then for the ones that they're not interested in, then we would just put out a notice and take sealed bids without reserves and just make them go away. Does that sound?
It's whatever you want to do, whichever way you want to
You
do
can
it.
contact adjacent property owners and encourage them if they're interested. Yeah,
Okay,
that's something I read a few of them over the years. Is it's
okay.
And I'd add, a lot of times, those properties that are kind of abandoned or have been abandoned are a little harder to get service or process on, because they're more likely to be owned by somebody who is deceased or who lived here at one time and moved away or something, and so they go through that tax sale process. We have to find them, and there's expense and there's work involved in doing that. We have to do the abstracting we just talked about of $120 at least per parcel. And then, you know, when they come up for a sale, if they do sell, they sell for $35 for 38, $38. So, you know, I think we'd also be losing money if we went ahead and published. We'd still be losing money if we published a invitation for bids or something like that to sell the properties, but it would be less than the cost of putting through the tax sale.
So currently, these properties and the counties, are we mowing them or
Well,
taking? care?
no, we don't own them yet, and they're in limbo. We just didn't deal with them after the last tax sale, and then
Okay.
we talked about it and whether we wanted to add them. And we have to ask the court for an order for the sheriff to issue a sheriff's deed transferring the properties to the county, and then after that's done, within six months somebody could purchase them from the county right then, but they have to pay back all of the taxes that were owed on them. That's fairly unlikely. But after 6 months, you could sell them just to however you want to do it. There's some limits on, or you have to give notice of how you're going to do the sale, and that's the publication that's required. So
I have a question on that $35 starting bid, how that was established and,
the cost of recording a 2-page deed.
okay. And do we have authority to change that? I'm just wondering, because when you tell the abstracting cost, should that be the minimum where it's,
Well, you can set the minimum of whatever you want to set it at. I know, I think I'm going to say the wrong county. There are counties that have significantly higher minimum bids, but the county ends up owning a lot more properties. That's up to you. That's a policy decision. Owning property comes with some requirements of mowing it at least a couple times a year, probably not every week, but at least a couple of times a year. And those sorts of things, but that's a policy decision.
just curious.
But yeah, we could set it at however. We could set it at the amount that's owed, and I think that's what Wyandotte County has done. Is that they have a tax sale, but the minimum bid is the amount that's owed. And otherwise it goes to their land bank, and because they want to have really control over development of that property, so.
Yeah, I don't think people would probably pay depending on what it was owed. I was just thinking 35 versus 120 of a minimum bid if it takes 120 for an abstract, but just kind of curious.
Yeah, well, if you took the 120 plus the 38 for the cost of recording the deeds, you're over $150 and.
Yeah.
There's also publication costs that go into each one.
So you're really just,
Yeah,
got it. Thank you. Okay, annual township meeting. In the past, Road and Bridge has set these up because there was something to cover. I want to visit with you guys. Michelle and Pat both had submitted the Kansas statutes, the meeting of the county and township road officials. And it states that the county engineer, which we don't have one, but shall call a one-day meeting of all county and township road officials in each county at least once each year for the purpose of discussing any and all matters pertaining to the improvement of the highways, bridges, and culverts of the county and of several townships. So didn't know how you guys feel about that. If you wanna, we could come up with topics and set something. The ones that I've been involved in have been good, really good conversation. It gives, Roger spoke of bringing those maps and they highlight which roads they take care of. And especially when we just did that resolution of Elm Drive and we talked about doing a resolution of township roads in general, it might be a good time to talk about that. Or any township roads that aren't being maintained or, just the overall topics of that we could bring together.
Countywide road plan. I mean, let's talk about that because it's not just that township, everybody's driving all those roads. So
Mhm.
kind of go over that and kind of what the goal is and what we're trying to accomplish. And
Okay, so do you want me to kind of get with Joe and Kim's schedule again and have them kind of pinpoint some dates and reach out to them? Because that's been the process since and it works well.
it's usually an evening meeting during the week.
Yeah, we had it at the Blue Building at 6 or 7, 6 o'clock maybe in the evening.
I was thinking 6.
And just it was good.
Sounds good.
So, okay. So if you guys have any specific topics, maybe email Kim and Joe those that you would want to talk about with them. And then they can compile the list and get some dates for us. Okay. Mary, I've put you on our agenda because you had emailed me the questions, which I'm glad that the county cleanup, you had gotten that information from Stacy. But you had other questions. I don't know if you wanted to ask them or I could just, you were talking about the tipping fees and wanting to know if that's been addressed.
Yeah, I've heard that mentioned in a couple of previous meetings that.
That was going to change the same time that the new tax goes into effect.
So like
April
in
1st,
April.
April 1st.
Okay,
I'm correct on that date, right? Now?
Right. I think that's right.
okay.
well, you have, that would, yes, it would be.
Yeah,
up to you.
actually in March 30th then technically.
Yeah, the end of the,
So because they first starts the tax. So,
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And just so now that we're on a meeting too, I had downtown business owner ask me how they know. And the Kansas Department of Revenue, is my understanding, contacts business owners to let them know it's changing and this is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their real process is, but that's the reason why they needed the 3-month ramp up, because they put, I think it's online that the people who collect sales tax are supposed to go get the info, and I know the software vendors for the companies that do that work know where to get it. But,
Send out a card with the rate for the county or,
no, I had
county
seen
and
those.
the city, but of course that's obsolete.
Well, I've seen those years and years ago. I don't know that I've seen one of those in a long time. Really.
that maybe is something that we need to do is put out. Maybe like a press release when it's getting close that. Like 2 weeks before, is that something that would be the right way to reach the people and say, you know, as a result of the election, the sales tax changes effective April 1st, and any of that information that we need, and that way vendors would get it and the public also.
It might be good to do it 30 days because they usually file them monthly. So they would know like, okay, March is your last one at this percentage. So when you file your April, it'll be. Because. I mean,
I don't know what,
I think VR does all that. I mean, I think they'll notify everybody.
Okay.
I would think. I'm just looking here.
So the tipping fee for residential and commercial will cease to exist then on March 30th.
yeah, the only thing that would still be charging for the CMD, correct?
I'll read the resolution to be sure.
I think you probably would need to pass another resolution or amend your resolution.
Okay.
Pass another resolution for what?
Well, your tipping fee set in by resolution,
Right.
2015-1403, is that the most recent? May not be.
I don't think they're charging for CD now unless you go over a certain amount, right? Is there, what's the policy on that?
C&D is $35 a ton.
Yeah, but there's waivers of like tear down houses. There's been waivers on that, but,
Right.
but they're just the,
Okay, because I thought if you're below a certain amount, like so much a year you do, is that separate? I just.
I don't think that's correct.
Okay, I don't know.
2,000 pounds.
So should the solid waste committee meet and look at all this?
Yeah, I think so. Review it.
Yeah, I think that's
And-
the best way to let them come back as a recommendation.
I mean, but all the resolutions have already been passed the end of last year. As far as that goes, I'm just looking to. I found the sales tax, the 3/4%, but I was looking for the,
I don't remember changing that because we're gonna change it until the actual time.
I think we did. Cause I think it was a. Two. Let's see here. Pat, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the number.
2022-15-11.
2022-15-11.
In 2015-14-03 is the tipping fee that imposes, the resolution imposes.
14.
2015-14-03.
For some reason, I thought we passed one in 2022. I don't think so. Which one was the one that's like a one document where I can search for like a keyword?
If we go back. Yeah, I just don't recall anything. The official or the tipping fees, what happened to it, I have heard speculation. 2022 election, and I thought I should double check and make sure.
You can just hit control F.
You know, when I was going to all those meetings during the campaign time after I was elected, I remember there's some discussion about that, but I can't say I remember you guys passing anything to actually stop the tipping fee.
Well, I think that we discussed doing it, but then when we found out that it was gonna be 90 days, I think it's like, we didn't want to, pass that 3 months before it would take effect.
Are we able to tell what date that is?
So it would
The
be,
fifth?
it would be the week before the 12th.
Okay, so
now
July
that
5th, we
date's getting
discussed
closer,
removal of
so-
the tipping fee. And it was tabled for a later date, and then
And then over there on the left is your arrow, right,
That one?
yep, hit down, and it takes you to the next time.
And then we received a letter eliminating the tipping fees.
Well, yeah,
Okay, so next, Commissioner Bauer made a motion that when the sales tax question is passed, that we remove tipping fees, be removed effective January 1, 2023. And if there shall ever be a shortfall, we have $1,009,000 in the 897 fund. That is specific purpose. Chairman Knoll seconded the motion. Chairman Knoll called for a vote. It was 2-1. Commissioner Knoll and Bauer voting yes, and Commissioner Quinn voting no.
and then that was the meeting.
So that means it should have been stopped as of January 1st.
Yeah,
Well. You want to talk about an executive session? My opinion has been consistently, you need to pass a resolution to repeal a resolution. Or to change a resolution, to amend a resolution.
Oh, I got you.
So, and as I recall, what he was saying, it was just a sort of a policy thought. It wasn't, I didn't take it to be,
There wasn't a resolution number given.
no, there definitely wasn't.
so how does that work though, when a motion is made and seconded and it's voted on?
It sounds like it was out of order. It sounds like right, the process should have been to repeal a resolution.
It was,
Yeah.
to me, it was a motion for process. This is what we should do. And we all agree, it was 2-1 that we would do it. We didn't follow up on actually passing the resolution. It was a motion to, this is what the way the things that we need to do to go forward, but we didn't actually make a resolution or sign it a number or write a resolution that specifically concur with that. And the reason we didn't do that is because we found out the 90 days needed to elapse before it would take effect.
Counselor, what would you
I don't think that there was even a draft made of the
Probably
resolution.
draft a resolution to have the tipping fees be what you want them to be and when you want them to stop. Which I think would be the end of March, right?
Okay,
So,
so would step one be have the solid waste committee meet? You get this all mapped out, so make sure the transition's smooth and then get the right resolution. Or resolutions.
And the solid waste committee, yeah.
And just for my education and moving forward, so if a commissioner makes a motion, it's been seconded and voted on, it doesn't mean anything because there's no resolution, because it's in the minutes and it was done. I just need to understand that, I guess, because to me, it's,
It was a little premature.
I think it was, again, it was for, this is what needs to happen. But it wasn't a specific, first of all, there wasn't one developed. I mean, we weren't considering a resolution. It is just that we need to follow up with all of these things to let the people know, this is our intentions, that we are going to put in a resolution. We're going, and this, because there was, at the time, the debate was whether, okay, now that the new sales tax had been passed, were we actually going to follow up with? Or were we actually going to remove the tipping fee? I mean, that was some of the criticisms.
What was the date? It was after the election, right?
oops, sorry, I know my mouse is September. Just touch the screen too. Oh, that's way easier.
Sorry,
Thank you, September 27th, but.
September?
Mhm.
Oh, really? Oh, sure.
But again, when it's in the minutes and it states
Mhm.
that when the county sales tax question is passed, which it was, that we, meaning county commissioners, remove tipping fees, be removed effective January 1, 2023. And if there's ever a shortfall, we have $1,009,000 in the 897 fund that is for a specific purpose. And then the motion was seconded. And then there was a vote. So
Okay, well, the purpose of that was to eliminate it when the sales tax started.
Yes.
Obviously, that didn't happen.
Well,
So-
that was before the.
how does that not happen?
Because the sales tax didn't hit.
Where was there wasn't a resolution to be voted on at that time. It's just that we need to pass a resolution to make this happen. And then we found out that there was the 90 days that the sales tax wasn't going to be able to change until April 1st. When at the time that this was, we assumed that it was going to change January 1st. And nobody knew that it was until Pat's discovery that we had to have a 90-day window between the actual passage and the implementation.
No, I
So that's
understand
the-
all of that. I'm just saying for
It's
the,
all good and just, but it's a moot point because the condition upon which the action would happen didn't happen. The sales tax didn't change, so therefore you can't change that. So you're handcuffed on that. You can't do anything.
but
So you
just,
move forward with a new resolution that is effective on the right day.
no, I understand all that. I'm just saying for this specific example, we never should have voted on something that wasn't
Right.
in effect.
Exactly.
I mean, because I want to do it right moving forward.
Yeah, that
So
was- that was
this was a
premature.
hypothetical motion and vote. But if the public were reading it, I mean, we're not doing what we're saying.
That was a motion made during the heat of a political campaign about the sales tax issue. I mean, you gotta kind of look, you just gotta accept it happened. It's okay. Well-meaning,
Well, it was,
but didn't have the right, I mean, it's not complete.
I really don't get your point because there wasn't a resolution for us to vote on. It was that we were going to, that was our intention, that this is the way it was gonna happen. But there is,
point is-
the sample resolution.
No, my point is for the public, like when commissioners are making a motion and voting on something and it's not being done, I'm just trying to understand,
It wasn't done correctly.
right?
Okay,
But
it's over. It happened. Oops.
did we answer your questions, Mary? Because I'm like,
Well, my memories kind of, I remember that motion, I think, and it was before the election.
mhm.
It was
Yeah.
before the election. It was
So
right
it's-
after.
it's
So-
Nothing judgmental about it, just this time to move forward, get the meeting of the solid waste, then we go forward with the. One or two new resolutions, depending on how it has to be done
So you want
legally.
the solid waste committee to develop?
I think it's, you don't have those folks on a board not to do their job, let's have them meet and there may be some other tentacles on this that we're not seeing and. Maybe where a fee is still there for C&D needs to be evaluated.
And at that time, there wasn't any talk about waiting 3 months.
That
You
was
know, I
an
mean, it was
unknown.
kind of like, yeah.
That was an unknown, so
something,
the. That was the. Based on the information that was there present at the time. And we still intend to follow that, except for the date got changed. Not by us, but by the Kansas Department of Revenue.
Yeah, that was the detail that came out. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I wrote a story about that action, but
I know that in Topeka, Shawnee County had passed a new sales tax for the zoo. And it was clear up almost, it was middle December before they found out that they weren't going to be able to implement it until April 1st
Yeah.
also. So I mean, that's kind of a common thing to be
yeah. And,
overlooked or.
well, and since, it passed, and I keep hearing that, I'm thinking, well, I'm not, I don't think I've heard anything official how that's going to be addressed since, or that it's actually. or when it stops
Mhm.
or whatever, so.
So when there's a vote of a futuristic move, then once it happens, a resolution should be drafted and voted again.
I would think you'd want to do it the other way, where you'd have the resolution before you voted on it. So that there's certainty about what is being voted for and what the effect is, and
Gotcha.
yeah, I think there's all of your decisions should be thought through completely, and yeah, I didn't take, my interpretation probably isn't that important, but I didn't take that resolution or that statement as, I took it as a statement of policy, of what our policy should be, not as something for Stacy Joyce to go in from there.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, it was unknown at the time how the election would go.
No, you're fine. We're still ahead of schedule, which is good. So I put on here advisory board / constituent focus groups. I know you guys got circled into an email last week. And I just wanted to explain to you what that was for.
I'm glad.
So in the past, we've talked about internet and options in Atchison County, from rainbow presentations to several different key factors. Wes was here a couple weeks ago. We talked to him about it. No one's really has time to dedicate, or has had in the past time to dedicate to that. So there was a constituent that has passion about it, has done a lot of research, talked to different groups and kept up with it. And just asking, I just asked her if she would be willing to sit on a committee or offer any guidance or start a focus group. And then she had emailed all of you guys to kind of get you in the loop, but I didn't want, that was just a simple question to her. So I hadn't talked to any of you about it. So just wanted to chat with you about how do we want that to be a focus for 2023? How do you want to handle it? So that we can find the best path forward, I guess. When it comes to internet, and this can be followed up then next week because Rainbow is coming back to visit with us about grants and information and so forth. I know we've tried, Wes has implemented surveys. We learned that from Rainbow last time of doing our own survey so that we can collect the data and have it for grants. And then the K.A.C. was working with FCC and we found out that our data doesn't work for that. So again, we're doing things, we're trying things. I mean, on my own, I've tried to contact Brightspeed several times through their government relations office. They purchased CenturyLink, which has infrastructure in the ground that they just up and walked away from. My constituents pay attention to our meetings and they've called me and said, you might think Cummings doesn't have service, but we have Verizon and they have really great cell service. We have CenturyLink and they have good internet options, T-Mobile hotspots. Like there's so many different options that I don't know how to gather that. So I was talking to Pat a little bit about it this morning and he had a great idea that maybe we could utilize high school students because they all live all over the county to gather the information of what kind of internet they have at home, they use for school, different things. I had thought about just calling businesses and different farming operations in my district to ask them instead of hoping people volunteer the information, just to point blank call them and say, hey, who do you use? How's it working for you? And to gather the data myself. I don't know what you guys think. I know you read the email, so I would love to hear your feedback, because again, it was just, I'm just trying to find the best way. And I think Wes is on. Wes, if you want to offer anything to this, I mean, I know you've been helping and we've been trying. It's just
Yeah, I mean, that group sounded great. Although by her last email, I don't think she's interested in that. But yeah, any help to gain traction. I have a meeting this week, learning what we have to do for that thing that I signed up for the government or for the governor's initiative. But I haven't, that's Wednesday, so I'll know more tomorrow afternoon.
well, and I know through K.A.C. and different organizations, I mean, there's always opportunities around the state of Kansas, but again, we almost need that to be the focus, you know, is like, okay, when there's those, you know, we have a task force, so someone's going to go get the information and come back and bring it to us, because there's so many things to attend, we can't,
Yep.
you know, and
I mean, I think I've said this before, but the more I think of it, why is this becoming such a put on like county government to supply a utility for individuals? We don't seek out people that are needing water for their house and create a water district and supply infrastructure for that. Or there's, I mean, because there's private businesses that supply these. Now, if they're looking for grants and we can help do things like facilitate those things. But I mean, to me, it seems like there's a change, or for this topic, that there is a different standard than there are for other utilities. And another thing is, well, it has to be affordable. Well, define affordable. And then the next thing is, well, okay, if we award a company, are we making them kingmakers? I mean, are we kingmakers to award a company that is doing this section and we're helping them out? I mean, to me, it's such a different standard. I'm having problems with the actual thing of why are we the facilitators of this instead of just when we've got private businesses or companies that come up and they've got proposals and things that we can either help facilitate, like I say, when they are asking for grants or things like that, that we can assist them, but it's not for us to be creating a countywide network.
So I agree, we can't provide internet to everybody in Atchison County. I think that the county needs to focus or assist with getting internet to everyone. And I'm not saying we have to pay for it. I'm just saying, but if we have our ducks in a row, and if we have everything that we're ready, so there's a new grant that comes out and we can say, yes, we already have this ready, and here you go, company A, B, or C. Here's what we can do to support you. Here's the documentation we have, and you can go out and get that grant. So I don't
Facilitate it.
county needs to pay for it, but I think we need to be as educated as we can be and prepared for as we can be as new grants and new opportunities become available.
So when these surveys go out and they have, you mentioned Verizon and CenturyLink and that's all being taken into consideration, that, I mean, that is, those people don't necessarily need another option, or, I mean, how is that being utilized to decide that they need a fiber optic access?
So your question's kind of twofold there. So if everyone had fiber to their home, everyone would have amazing, great internet, and you wouldn't have to worry about your speeds changing throughout the day upping or lowering those speeds like a wireless option is. So we just need to get we just want to get adequate internet to our citizens. I mean, I have 2 internet providers at my house because the 2 that I have available to me, neither one of them can give us what we need to operate in our home. So I have to have 2 different for my home. I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but there are areas of the county that are like that.
But are we supposed to rule that that's not good enough? I mean, that's, you know, there's so many different standards. That CenturyLink might be perfectly fine for like me, you know, but to the next person say, well, it's not near enough because they are streaming videos and all of this, that they need so much more. But I mean, at what point? The demand will probably get bigger, not less, but then at what point do we have to expand that? So I just have real questions about us being the seeking to be the ones that are creating the network, basically.
I agree on this. It facilitates one thing, but go way back when water lines first started back, you know, the 50s and 60s. I mean, all the cities had water, and then you started getting rural water systems got added, and eventually they're probably still adding them somewhere.
Yep.
But let's say with the internet, the technology's changed so fast, and now you got the wireless, you got satellite, you got fiber, you got all kinds of options. Dialogue still out there, so I think we need to advocate for it. But you know, unless we need to help with some kind of a study. Beyond that, I haven't heard from anybody ever about better internet service. I see it on the news. I hear Governor Kelly talk about it. I've had no one person except that one email here in Atchison County about better internet service. When I was campaigning and stuff, even when I ran 4 years ago out in the South area here, it was nothing, 0 crickets on internet. So people are finding it, you know. That's what it seems like.
So I see exactly what you're saying, and I think that it just all came about after COVID when families go home to work and school. And I know that was the first time that our internet locked up and things turned down because we had 3 kids trying to school and parents working and all the things. So that's like been why the topic's happening. And as far as the county being involved, I think it's just through what's happening around us. I mean, Rainbow came and asked for ARPA money for grants. They did it with Donovan County. They were successful. So Donovan County, you know, you hear that on the news. So that's how counties have become involved. But for me, it's in order to make decisions, I have to have information. So like, it's easy to listen to a speaker and hear what they're saying, but then when other people give you input, you understand that there's other options and different things. So for me as a commissioner is just knowing what Atchison County truly has so that we can have educated conversations about it. And provide support to people because, you know, especially if you're moving here, it's an economic driver to be able to work from home or school from home, all the things. But some people that aren't familiar with our area might have AT&T and think, oh, we have no cell service in Atchison. But if you explain, hey, you moved out to Cummings, so if you switch to Verizon, you're going to have great service. But it's just those pieces. I just yearn for the understanding and the education so I can help constituents be successful. And it's hard to do that. We're trying to, how do we get that information? You know, we've tried the surveys and all the things, but
you got to decide if this is a public responsibility to drive it or if it's market driven. This is a consumer issue. You know, to me, it's a market driven issue. That doesn't mean there's not a piece of public involvement there, but it's the majority of this is driven by the consumer and and all these providers, they know what the coverage are. We see the map, we've all seen the maps. It's so-and-so covers this, so-and-so covers that. And so I think we're covered. It's just like Wes said, it may not be ideal. But that will keep getting better with the market driven forces, I think. Not driven Model A's anymore. Things get better.
Right.
well, I appreciate you guys.
So where did this, did the commission ask to set up a board or a group like this, or where'd that come from?
No, so this constituent's very passionate, has contacted the FCC, done their due diligence, getting information, understanding that the service maps on websites aren't accurate from what they're actually getting, and just really had really good information from, and so I just casually said, hey, would you be willing to, sit on a committee?
Okay.
And
If there was.
If there
is
was
this-
one, like hypothetically, like it,
I envisioned that almost
Yeah.
sounded like you were asking if that would be
That's
a
right.
correct way of doing.
yeah, and that's why when the email came out to all of you with Dr. Epley and everything, it was like, whoa, like I was just simply asking, like, is there interest? Because if there's interest, then, the consumer driven charge, but anyway, so I just wanted to
Sure.
cover that with you guys so that we're all on the same page, and I appreciate your feedback.
And Rainbow's coming next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and Brian had a conflict with scheduling this afternoon, so he came this morning and updated us on the treasurer and appraiser alterations. Anything else you guys want to say about that? Okay, I'm gonna, since we're still ahead of schedule, I'm gonna skip over because David Mercier is gonna come here at 12:30 and give us an update on Senior Village just for after his first week to kind of get us up to speed of what he's seeing. Policies and procedures. I put this on here because I just wanted to kind of visit with you guys about it. We have the policy meeting set up for Friday the 3rd, our first one. And just understanding the differences of county policies, right? So policies and procedures, what's the responsibilities of us three to set versus appointed department heads versus elected department heads? Because at the end of the day, all the policies and procedures should be followed, K.Camp had sent me, I can't open it, I was gonna ask IT to help me, but a template of theirs. Some counties are using that as a guide. Basically, they have one policy manual within addendums of like departments. But it seems like every conversation we have goes back to policy. What's the policy? Oh, wait, we don't have policy.
So on the 3rd, I know that there was a committee that was reviewing them, so we've basically stopped that and the commission's gonna take over. So are we gonna go from there on? Are we gonna review what's already been reviewed?
That's employee manual.
Correct.
Okay. So to me, there's different things here. There's employee manual. But there's also administrative policies and procedures, which are more like who unlocks the courthouse, who, whatever. I mean, it's all that stuff that is common to all departments.
Okay,
Yes.
but am I correct? That committee stopped
Yes.
what they were doing
Yes.
because of what we're gonna be doing. So where are we starting? What are we gonna specific, and don't we need to kind of telegraph that out? So all the department heads know what things that we're gonna be discussing that day. I mean, and maybe they would have some ideas drawn up ahead of time, or is that?
That's why I put it on here, because I want to be prepared, because I don't know what expectations we have for that. And with it being next Friday, if it's samples, if it's, I want to come prepared and I want to meet your expectations. So just kind of seeing where your guys' heads are at on that.
I think just go through the employee manual. Let's just I'm gonna double check. I think I have the original one in here somewhere. So let's see what needs to be changed. I mean, there's been a lot of changes made, some things been written, but only not very much though, right? I mean, how far did you guys
Yeah,
get?
we didn't get terribly far.
Well, and I think the big thing is that the feedback I would like from department heads and elected officials is what are the points where you have a hard time interpreting what it says? Where's the speed bumps? Is it just a matter of somebody doesn't like a certain word in there, or is it really a substantial policy? It's confusing.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things, I know Jody had sent it out to all department heads of, that's what we're gonna do,
Okay.
March 3rd. And then I took her email and forwarded it on to the elected officials to encourage them to join us. Because for me, sitting in that policy committee, it was hard because we're writing policy that should be followed countywide to make us all uniform, right? to have all of our staff abiding by the same handbook. But if it's not being followed by, or if it doesn't fit the mold for other elected official offices, we need to know that so that we can make those, so we can tailor it, right? Because without your input, I don't know how to tailor this to your needs.
Right.
So I just really hope that elected officials will come, will give us that guidance that we can only get from you of, yeah, that wording doesn't really work for my office because of this, or, you know, how do we make an employee handbook the best it can be for everyone in the county, so that we have one reference point for HR to say, when she gets the phone call, oh, you know, I'm not working for Eric, I'm working for Kaylee. You know, it has to be the same, it has to be uniform. I think it would be better that way. It should be. I mean, I know when I say it has to be, but it would be ideal if we can get an employee handbook to where any employee of the county can follow it, can reference it, and can abide by it. So that will be, and then, so that'll be our focus, the employee manual. What is going to be the process beyond that? Department head submitting theirs to us. Like this morning, we talked about fuel, you know, all these little topics. Just as we get to them and we don't have them, then we say, okay, let's create a fuel policy today.
No, let's try something more organized.
Yeah.
I've been looking at different counties. And a few things I've figured out. So I started putting out the bigger counties just because they have
Yep.
a lot more robust websites and information. But quickly realized, for example, I got Johnson County's up here in front of me. It's a great template, except they have a county manager. So a lot of things reference county manager, this or that, or the other thing. So we need to compare to a county that does not have a county manager, that has a 3-commissioner system. And then some of them have their own authority with the utility, maybe, or with an airport. We don't have those. So I'm trying to find some good examples that fit us pretty good, and virtually it can be almost a copy and paste and just update certain parts that fit us, because a lot of it's pretty routine.
Mhm.
But, you know, purchasing policies don't differ that much, the ones I've read.
I think that's a good idea, because I think we need to find a template, because until we find something that we can follow and tailor something, tweak it for our use. I mean, I don't know how we'd even identify all the different things that need to be in there.
Yeah.
Until you find a completed document.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
as you read through it, okay, that don't pertain to us, strike that, strike this, but okay, this one, but we need to add maybe a word or two here.
Yeah.
So until we have a template located, so
But like, pretty much the administrative policy procedures is what really applies to us. And then after that, then you make a chapter on road and bridge policies, or if the treasurer wants to put some policies in there. And elected officials have the right to supersede our policies on certain things. I mean, they can say, well, we're closed half a day, we're, you know, whatever, they can do that. Am I right?
Closing the office would be a special, yeah,
We've got to figure all that out, but
well, I don't think they can change, the office hours without your permission. But I don't want to start an argument because by
Yeah, I don't know.
giving you an off the cuff response.
that's all I referenced in one, that's why I asked that.
Yeah, I believe you guys set the office hours.
Great, so we'll figure that out. The other thing I like about theirs is that they, a couple of them, they actually put the statutes in there. That what's the state statute regarding, like, say, purchasing policy, or let me find it here.
Are you looking at Johnson County?
That's what I have up right now. So they have the statutory authority reference for bridges, budget law, preferential bidding, real estate acquisition, roads, statutory bonds. So they've got it cross-referenced here. So as we go through some parts, it's got the statute that supports our authority. So I just think we just got to find a really good template to build from, because state statutes are the same. And a large degree of these policies would be very similar.
then if we knew if we were following that closely, then department heads and elected officials could actually read through it and say, I like this part, I don't, this might work. And I think it'll speed the process up, because if we're trying to create something up out of whole cloth, it's gonna take forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how about if by next Tuesday, the three of us have maybe a template or two that you want to look at. And maybe if we can decide which one we want to go with, then we can share with all department heads to review before Friday.
Yeah.
So then we have one working document that we're going to tailor to Atchison. That sound
For the
like,
administrative policy. procedures, yeah.
does that sound okay?
We have talked about employee manual mostly for that Friday, I think,
Yeah.
and that's just part of, I think, is that buried in this or not? Oh, no, I'm still administrative, sorry.
Yeah, they have employee policies and procedures.
Yeah,
And then it goes into the foundation's employment compensation.
yeah, so they've got different ones, but like I said, theirs is a lot more robust than we need. It's a little more complicated down there.
But maybe we can play around, the three of us, and find some that maybe. And then we'll look and decide on a template Tuesday, share with the departments, and then we'll be ready to hit the ground running Friday. Does that sound okay?
What have been typical counties that you guys found are very similar?
Pickens.
I know Shawnee County, there's 3 county without a manager, so Shawnee would be the one I would look at.
Okay.
I haven't looked yet. I'm just saying theoretically.
Shawnee, Sedgwick, and
Pickens is
Leavenworth,
usually
Johnson,
more.
the bigger ones I looked at. This, we need to probably go down a notch too, yeah. So Dickinson.
The Shawnee manual looks pretty, good,
They
too.
look decent, so. Okay, so yeah, I like that. Just pick up, everybody just come to a couple, 3 and.
And that starts at 9. Do we have an end time on that?
Up at 9 to 12 on my calendar, if it's the right. That's just what I plugged in.
I think that's what I did too. But then
Oh, we would ask, since it'll be a special meeting, we would ask.
in the last special meeting, we didn't have an end time, and then we ended up going a few minutes over, so it wasn't a big deal,
Okay,
but.
well, and I was kind of wondering,
Just-
are we going to have at least a target time if we
Yeah.
don't say?
I mean, 3 hours, I think everyone will be burnt. Their brains will be over.
Do we have an end time on that, or is it 9 till question mark?
It probably could be 9 until nothing else to discuss it.
Okay,
We-
Alright.
That's how we typically like, I mean, that's how, I don't know that's how we like it, but that's how we typically put it, until no further business to discuss. But with like the commission meeting, it's until 1 o'clock or no further business.
Mhm. Well, I needed to know for my personal, and then also, how, what's expected, because if it was gonna run much later, I'd have to have my arrangements for Dad, so.
Because it will be a special, it will be a special meeting. It will be an open meeting. Are you wanting Zoom to have some of your
It's
department
just a workshop.
attend?
Shop setting.
Yeah.
So do you?
No Zoom.
If you're having trouble sleeping, they can watch the recording. Right?
And we have March 3rd and March 17th.
17th.
Yep, just so you know.
Starting at 9?
Yep.
Okay, so
Pencil
the
it in.
9 to at
I
least.
have a conflict on the 17th. My kind of proud to announce my son's wife is going to become an American citizen. So we're going to her ceremony.
Okay, well, then we should
Of course,
reschedule.
it's
So you're here.
oh, so my God, dang it. Well, it's in the afternoon, but I mean, I just want to take a chance.
Well, yeah,
Like,
let's just reschedule the 17th one to another
and if you
date.
guys want to keep rolling without me, it's not the end of the world. So I have a workshop. I mean,
I would prefer all of us to be.
On something like this, well, although. Well, I'm gonna say, if that's the only date, and we would consider that, we still don't, we don't vote on it that day, so you would have time to review it, so.
Do we have a conflict the 24th,
The what?
the March 24th, the following week?
I'm doing a mission of mercy. I'm not going to be there.
I don't.
For the 31st?
No.
Um, that may work. Let's do it.
31st? Okay, so the 3rd and the 31st, please.
So we can focus on employee manual, the first Friday we work, and then. I think we can get through that.
If we have a template that we're working on and Les is like just reading through it and if somebody has an input, then we stop and we do the input. I think it'll go quickly.
Yeah, just gonna make decisions. And that doesn't mean, I think the point is you get this done. And then we send that document to all the department heads, get more feedback, and then we make some revisions. And then we should be done. I mean, this doesn't have to take forever.
Right, and it'll be updated, and then,
Then once a year, you keep trying, that'd be
Yeah.
Jody's job to say, hey,
well,
Yeah,
and she's been doing good about that, because those are the changes, is like, as we have something come up, then we notate, oh, that probably should be changed. So then if she's doing that, then at our annual review, the changes should be minimal and based on experience or examples that we can, and just keeping it up so that it never feels like a project again. It just,
It's so far out that you just can't do that. Yeah, I get it.
I found the statute, K.S.A. 19-2601, the Board of County Commissioners absolutely has the authority to set the office hours for all of your offices.
so it's a little, as we build this, we want to reference the statutes. I think it's important. Yeah.
But then, that sounds easy for like the courthouse, but when you have EMS that's runs 24/7, the sheriff's office that runs 24/7, that you get,
Yeah.
to say
Well-
you're open from this to that.
Is there a
time.
distinction between office hours and service hours? Like, I mean, there's an office out there even that's open from a certain hour, same with the sheriff, so that may be the difference, I'm suspecting.
Yeah.
The statute was adopted in 1868, and I think the major concern was where are they going to be, but so it
Yeah.
was it. But it does say county officers shall keep his or her office and wherever the Board of County Commissioners tells them to place it, and then they shall keep the same open during such days and hours that shall be fixed by the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah, it's probably just the office clerical side of stuff.
all offices. So. Okay. I'm just saying there's instances where sickness or a family emergency, and they've called me and I was like, yeah, just put a sign on your door. So we might want to make sure that's in the policy of the chairman can give authority to close on a whim or, an emergency
Short
basis.
notice.
Yeah, short
You're
notice.
gonna have inclement weather, you're gonna have.
Yeah.
COVID. You're gonna have things happen.
all the things.
Is that something that we'd actually want to put in there, like when we do our inclement weather and the chairman is the one that makes the final call?
I think,
That's a good idea.
yeah,
That's good.
there's
The more it's spelled out,
absolutely,
and then we don't have to be doing this, because every year we're kind of like, okay, this is the way we do it.
right.
Is everybody okay with that? But if it's in writing, it's a little more substantive.
Well, and then it just prevents the feedback because it's written down. Everybody had a chance to say, because I know when I became chair this year, like people are immediately in my ear about the inclement weather. And I'm like, we hadn't even had it yet. But if there's a policy, then it's like, okay,
And the
and
best policy
this is the policy.
Never close.
Yeah.
The
And
best-
never-
I'll tell you, I had a school superintendent said if he had to do it over again, he would never close school ever. Because it's just.
Then it becomes a public safety issue.
Well, that's
And
what the
then-
people say, but then you have, that's a whole other policy, but I'm just saying.
So
He said from his experience in working in more than one district, we would have never, ever closed school ever. It would have been easier just to be that guy.
well, and we have
Can't agree with that.
Yeah, but he has experience after 40 years of it. I mean, very interesting conversation.
Well, when it's,
So several factions have their own agendas. But that's the school systems. I can't fix those.
I think. All right, she was ready to go over the chamber, I think, and then we got on that. What did you from that? say?
she's coming.
Policies and procedures. It's under. Oh, first thing. Oh, great, thank you. Hi, thank you.
I just wanted to give you guys a couple updates. I've gotten an email out to community corrections in regards to getting information, detailed information on the JCAB. Board as far as requirements, meeting times, terms. Annual chamber, I think I've emailed you guys all.
Mhm.
How do you want me to proceed? I'd like to try to get something because we're talking a week and a half. Do you want to open it to department heads? Do you want to?
I plan on going,
Be me, no, I'll
be two less.
yeah,
Mhm,
it'll just be one.
Yes, I would like to go. They used to have it on, yes, Joe and I both. They used to have it on Cruz's birthday and I couldn't go, but they changed it to March. So yes, please, chamber banquet.
What's the date of that again?
It is on March 4th. It's a Saturday, we can have it.
6. What time?
6 o'clock is happy hour, 7 o'clock is the dinner and awards.
Okay, perfect. So, yes.
We do have a,
Is there a theme or something this year?
we're all connected.
Pianos or something.
This just says we're all connected.
Oh, comes the internet.
Again, times.
6 o'clock is happy hour. And then the dinner and awards is at 7. On the 4th. I kind of mentioned to you all last year, they actually gave us the plaque over there for the 165 years. So there was quite a turnout that went for that. Are you guys open to getting a second table? Because typically in the past, I have gotten the invitation and I'll send it to department heads and basically ask them if any of them are wanting to go. In the past, we've gotten up to 3 tables for the different things. So.
At least go on the table. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we have demand, you know.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. So, but I will go ahead and shoot this out to the department heads then. I do have the actual symmetry bills or not the bills, the agreements. They're needing signatures. How would you guys, because I know they were approved, how would you guys, it doesn't really say as far as, do you want me to just go ahead and sign them since they were approved? Do you want to sign them, K.S.A. as chairperson? This is the symmetry for the courthouse and for the senior village in regards to the
Fuel
gas, yeah, the,
delivery.
correct,
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay with you signing them.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's pretty much all I had, unless you guys had other things for me. I got the special meetings, we're gonna go ahead and put them out, and you said you were gonna do it the 3rd and the 31st, is that, did you change it? Okay. Hey, I don't think I'd be here either if I was you.
No.
That's awesome.
Pretty special family.
Yeah, putting the pressure on to get it done. I know they're doing, so I better be there.
Right, so I was trying to find, and maybe I can find it here real quick. I had a lot of times, about once a year, one of the clerks will send on the listserv like a wage update. So, and it has population and stuff in it. So I know I have a couple pretty current records of all of that. So we can share that. So awesome. But if there's anything else you guys need, I'm gonna.
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mercier, how are you? We're running ahead of schedule, but if you wanna,
No, I want to wait.
you wanna come on up.
And a sense of humor.
I'm excited for you to be able to
We
meet.
just stare at each other for 12 minutes. There's no light that shines down here. Yeah, is there?
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah.
County Commissioner Eric Knoll.
No, Valerie, I don't think we met. No.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice seeing you too.
So it's been a week and you're still here, so that's a good thing.
Keep coming back. Yeah. Wasn't for punishment, is that? No, it's not bad. A lot to get done, but. Doing okay. So how do you, what executive session? First time,
That might be,
I'm just asking. What, I don't know if we'll need an executive session for part of this or not. Maybe with personnel, we can always meet in executive session. Okay. Kitty too.
Well, I'll just kind of cover just some notes, just in the outline, just said kind of an update my
Yeah.
first week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just,
okay, yeah, there's several things you need to get in place, and then some of the stuff we talked about when talking to me about coming up here and that, one of the big things is getting RN coverage. You know, right now, we've been out of compliance for a while now with the RN coverage. And that goes beyond the DON. I know we need to hire a DON, but the regulations require that we have 8 hours of RN coverage a day. And we haven't been having that, so. We interviewed a couple candidates last week, and that the one that was interested in the DON position did turn it down over the weekend. We do have a candidate that hasn't got back with us yet that would come on as an RN, and that would suffice to cover that regulation. And actually, the DON position is not regulated, so we need an RN more than we need a DON at this point, although we do obviously still need the DON, but that we technically we do meet the requirements to apply for a waiver. But the state has been very reluctant to give out waivers for the RN coverage for one reason or another. But with the situation we're in, I was talking with Ashley today on that. I think we probably need to go forward with looking at putting that into the state. Because if we get caught, they come in, if there's a complaint given, or if a survey comes in for a complaint survey or something like that, and they look at that, we could get tagged for that and get some significant fines.
How long does it look like we've been out of compliance?
I'm not sure. It was well before I was here, obviously. I haven't gone back to look at the date that was, but it's been months, my understanding. So it's been out of compliance for quite a while, something that would be hard to justify with the state that we didn't let them know what was going on. So we are, we're hoping to hear back. Like I say, the one young lady that applied last week for the RN position, she has not gotten back with us yet. And Ashley's trying to follow up with her as much as possible to
On the one that turned the DN or the DON position down, did they give a reason?
Yeah, it was just she actually liked where she was working. She did have a commitment that they had paid for some education, stuff like that, that she was still committed to paying back to them, or committed to working that out. And I think she it wasn't pay or benefits or anything like that. It was just personal decision that she felt she just wanted to stay in her current situation more than making a move over to.
Okay. Good. I mean,
Yeah.
Because many times we've been hearing it's pay or it's, certain things, but I think it's important to know what future staffing needs.
Right. The ones we've talked to so far, it really hasn't been pay. I'd say we're not the highest in the area, but we're not the lowest, but at least at this point, I'm not at the point of asking to look at any kind of a change there right now. We may need to for the DON position, but just to attract somebody, but I guess I'll hold on making that decision at this point. So that's kind of where we're at with that, to get that kind of straightened out, that besides being out of compliance, that we have to turn in information to the government every Friday and all that stuff, and that not having RN coverage, the 5-star program that the government implemented several years ago that rates the different nursing homes. Well, staffing is part of it, but also RN staffing is a part of that 5-star program. So it does impact our rating, our 5-star rating overall, which people look at. And, so we do want to get that taken care of right away. I've been working on the budget. When we were talking everything, that was a big topic that I wanted to have a budget in place, and Wes has been very helpful there in that. We'll be getting back with him. Some questions I got coming up, but gone through, I think pulled up a lot of information from CIC. I think we're in a pretty good position. Have sat down preliminarily with the department heads, kind of got an idea what goes on in each of their departments, but pretty close to sitting down doing the detail stuff to get the budget put together, and just have a few questions for Wes and that, and so hopefully it won't be awful long before I'll have the budget stuff put together. Other stuff we're working on is the emergency preparedness manual. The manual is kind of out of whack. And so there is one there, but working with Wes and everything. It's kind of gotten kind of unruly and everything. We had a meeting the other day and I started looking at it and could tell, and I didn't want to waste everybody's time. So I've taken it and I'm just going to go through it and make changes and suggestions and stuff like that. And then we're going to meet again and get that in place. So that shouldn't be too difficult to do that. And then the facility assessment, pretty much starting from scratch there. These are all requirements for the fire marshal that aren't in place, and we can get tagged for not having that stuff in place. And it's been a requirement for several years. So get those things kind of straightened out. I've been talking with, Jody, and gonna be actually after I'm done here, gonna go up with her office and everything to help out with the interviewing, I guess, and the process with getting a permanent administrator. See what applicants she's got, along with what we talk over the DON and some of the other positions that we have open over there. Then a lot of day-to-day stuff, putting together the coffee program that's kind of falling apart. They haven't had a coffee meeting. And that, again, that's something that's required. They haven't had one in a few months. Taking care of some resident family issues, stuff like that, just day-to-day things going on. Also going to put together a purchasing control system to where they have kind of a checkbook type thing isn't in place. They really don't know what their budget is or what, just kind of they're flying by the seat of their pants on what they're buying and how much they're spending and what they have to spend and stuff like that. So put together a program to where they can track that every month and what their budget is and what they're spending and everything, so they can control that a lot better. And then putting it in the triple check program, that is where when we're billing Medicare, that it helps them. They go back through and make sure everything's all our T's are crossed and I's are dotted and all the little ducks are in a row and everything, so that when we bill Medicare, that there's less questions and less denials on our Medicare billing. So it's just a program making sure all our diagnoses meet what medications and what treatments and everything are going on. So all of it matches, that there's not contradictory documentation from the different departments and stuff like that. It just gives them a structured program to look and make sure that billing stuff is in place. Anything else? Anybody else wants me to take a look at or want to identify?
On the billing, is it, I guess my concern is the change over the last 2 or 3 years or 4 years. Has the billing been done right? Are there claims out there we never got, which is,
I can look at that. Yeah, that's something I haven't looked at this point or heard that that's a concern. I haven't gone back.
I just about verified if it is correct. I mean, to me, it's like this.
I would say with the consultant companies that you've had, it might be fairly difficult to get some of the documentation it is to verify. I'd say the biggest thing is probably if you've got paid for the billing that you've been doing, that's probably submitted correctly, because they're pretty stingy with the money and they don't give it out if they have any kind of question at all. They even kind of rack up questions at times just to delay payment. It's kind of an interesting process. So I'd suspect as long as you've gotten paid for what has been billed, that there hasn't been a problem with the billing process. That's kind of my 15 minutes of bang.
On the interview process for the permanent, you're hired.
Well, it's a great facility. I like the people. Let me tell you, you got a gem in Ashley. Let me tell you, I've always said that a bad administrator or a good administrator can't make up for a bad DON, but a good DON can make up for a bad administrator. And Ashley will make. And we've been talking to her, getting her RN and then move up to the DON position. And even as a DON, she is a go-getter. And if she doesn't know it, she's going to go out and find out and track down the resources or whatever she needs to figure out what the right thing to do is. And have really appreciated her involvement. And could tell you, I think I even mentioned that one reason I was interested up here was my very first conversation with her. It was such a good conversation. She just seemed to be so dedicated to the facility and getting things done in place. I'm impressed with that.
I'm very impressed. I mean, it's our first meeting and you've came highly recommended. We're glad to have you aboard, even though it's temporary. I realize that, but I think that we could learn a lot here, because I think that I personally would like to know kind of maybe at the end of when you're helping us, kind of give us an overall your view of what our building needs or our system needs, because I think not only are you the temporary admin, but I mean, you can kind of be our like an analyst a little bit.
Yeah, they talk about
As you see
changing.
many facilities
Right.
and things there, you can kind of give us your opinion on what we need to continue and kind of guide us a little bit. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to help the new person get their feet on the ground too.
Right.
After
Yeah,
those
I
60
think,
days.
I think besides the controls that I talked about, one thing that needs to happen is that the census wise is that needs to the configuration that needs to change a little bit. There needs to be a little more marketing to the Med A and managed care in our profession, and I think I talked about it, is the only real margin payer source that we have in our profession is Med A and managed care resident census, and right now we're we get one or two or whatever that. And as I put the budget together, I'll come up with a number that would help to at least get us breaking even and everything, to where it kind of carries its own weight and it'll probably be somewhere probably 6, 7, 8 Medicare and managed care residents. So kind of the configuration of the census needs to be something of a concentration as well for the permanent person, and do some marketing and that to be able to be in a position to get those referrals from the hospitals in the area. So, yeah, no, definitely to help.
Yeah, I mean, this.
Yeah, I did this for 40 years and decided that and already kind of explained, been an owner and a vice president but my favorite thing was always being an administrator, kind of being on the ground in the hallways and that. So
Have you seen the climate like it is? I mean, because we just a couple weeks ago, there was 2 more closed in the state of Kansas that we know of,
No.
and the current climate is
Yeah.
making things so challenging.
Definitely, it is extremely, it's going to continue to do that. They're still looking at things. Right now, CMS is looking at imposing a mandatory staffing level. And that is, I don't understand that at all. American Healthcare Association and Leading Age and everything are testifying, everything, just indicating we're having difficulty, as you can see here, just getting to the staffing levels that a lot of facilities are at, which you might not understand it, but it's a staffing level of a average nursing home is what they call 3.22. That's kind of it's not mandatory, it's just kind of where the profession has landed. And that's a good staffing ratio to provide good care to the most residents, but they're talking to jumping to over 4.0 and up to 4.1. That's going to be a staffing level that's going to be very difficult to maintain or to even find, let alone get to, and then also more RN coverage. They're just not out there, so we don't. I know, and plus they're not including anything in any of these bills for reimbursement to pay for the extra staffing that they're going to demand, they're looking at demanding. So yeah, there's all kinds of things. It's the atmosphere, 40 years, our profession, I've gone through a lot of different changes, reimbursement changes, everything from got started in June of 1982 and that. So there's a lot of things that have, but nothing like the last few years. And I anticipate that there's going to be more coming down the road. So it was a pretty good time for me to retire. And timing was just kind of there anyway. So yeah, answer to your question, I've never seen anything like the atmosphere it is right now, and don't anticipate that's going to get any better anytime soon.
If they pass those levels, and don't pick up the reimbursement, I think it'll close
it'll close a lot of
A
facilities.
lot of facilities.
So,
So is that ratio of 3 employees to every 2.2?
no, it's hours. It's, you take how many nursing hours you have, not the nursing management, just the nurses on the floor. How many nurses you have on the floor, the number of hours you have in a day. And you divide that by the number of residents you have in the facility.
Okay.
So that gives you 3.22 hours
Gotcha.
per resident per day.
And that's current. This is 3.2.
That's kind of, yeah, the profession standard right now, talking with Ashley and what we're staffing at, it came out at 3.5 to something like that. So for a county facility, it's really not that far. It's not really not out of whack. It's a little bit higher than the average, but it doesn't look like they're overly staffing in the nursing section. And the problem is that only having 39 residents and everything, the departments, the kitchen and housekeeping and maintenance and all that stuff has to take place, and there's really can't adjust those areas. And as a lower census you have, obviously less revenue you have coming in, and you don't have a lot of leeway there in adjusting what you're doing in those areas to kind of help offset a lower census and lower revenue. When most of your residents are Medicaid, and Medicaid, you're really not even breaking even with Medicaid reimbursement. And so it's,
What could our census be? What's the max up there? What's the?
well, it used to be 54 and then they changed it to 45. Today we're at 40. And so, and one thing, and I guess suggestion or whatever, I've got a few things rumbling around in my head here. I'll wait till I can really get a handle on whether it's going to be I'm thinking about some things, but I'd rather whether it's really feasible or not. I don't want to throw things out there and have it confusing down the line why it didn't work out. So, but I'm looking at a couple of things that might help.
I have a couple questions. The QAPI, is that something that all of our department heads that have to do with senior village should be at the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll set that up. And what that is, the government kind of allocated a gentleman back in the 80s wrote a book. It was called Management by Objective. And they took that concept and they turned it into a government program called the Quality Assurance Performance Improvement Program, the QAPI program. And it's virtually the very same thing, but you have your objective, you identify what the problem is, and you identify your steps and everything that you want to do to correct it. I mean, it's the exact same thing, they just call it something different.
I love to hear your meeting with the department heads up there, because from my history of the past 2 years is there were QAPIs several months ago, but it never encompassed all the department heads. So having them and you sitting down and going over the budget and holding them more accountable for their piece, because there's so many pieces of running it, just like you
Right.
mentioned, that everybody has to be involved in the
Right.
process. And I feel like they got maybe left out of the process. And so bringing them in, I think that's awesome.
And all the departments. We have all identify issues and that they need to address and how they're going to address and get to the goal of getting things straightened out.
That's so awesome.
Running correctly.
Second is, I don't want to add more to your plate, but with the advisory board meetings, first Wednesday, do you feel comfortable writing an agenda for those? Or do you, I mean, for this one, I was probably just the same type of thing where it's an update from you to the board, just for the past
I
couple
can do
weeks.
that, send it to you, and and then anything you want to change or add or whatever.
Well, I mean, for the administrator, I mean, that was kind of ideally you're running the shift, so go for it. I can just put you on an email with the advisory board so that you can just respond back of what you want to talk about. And we'll just turn that over to you, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Because you'll know the topics that you want to cover or have their input now that you're there. So just thank you for everything that you're doing, and the kind words you have to say about our ADON, because I see that. I mean, her heart's in it, her passion's there, you know, resident care is her top focus, and she's really turned the atmosphere of morale up there around to the team that we need. And so it feels good to have that. So I'm glad that you coming in new can witness that and reiterate that to us as well, because sometimes when you're dealing, you know, with it often, that we see that, but for someone new, it feels good to hear you say that too, because
Right.
so.
She deserved it. So.
Well, thank you very much, and look forward to what you and our HR director, Jody, put together for admin schedule stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was a bad.
We don't bite too hard.
No. You have to go sit in my car and cry or anything like that.
We had a couple of kind of housekeeping things that I think,
Oh, there's
Jody
your.
and I,
Looking back.
and probably Michelle ought to talk, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be in a commission meeting.
Okay.
We need to get squared out.
Sure. You'll have your own meetings.
Thank you. Okay, so, we are at older unfinished business, going back to additions to the agenda, policy development. Did we cover what you want to do in that
Yeah,
discussion?
Yeah, we got the ball rolling.
Okay.
So the next time we'll talk about the employee manual primarily, then we can start looking at the policies and procedures and,
Okay,
you know, the one thing I think the department heads need to do is start. When we start getting make sure they got their policy books, their policy stuff together, see what needs to be included in access to the public kind of policy manual. For example, the sheriff's gonna have internal policies on procedural things with law enforcement issues. That we don't need that, you know, but we need like whatever might apply, like with road and bridge may have some policies that are separate from what's in their other policy. I don't know what's out there. Just make sure we get it all at some point. Or identify where we need a policy too. You know, we talked about the fuel thing being inconsistent. I mean, just where we need policies.
well, and I think that's where it's hard for me to. I agree. I just don't know the rules as far as elected versus appointed, because we can tell all of our appointed department heads, give us your policies. I mean, that's what we ask, but for elected officials, if they have a vehicle policy in place, say, are we privy to that? Is that in our manual?
Right, that's what I'm saying. I find out what's even needed or necessary, and it may just be a matter of. They may just say, let's put a link in there to this page, and they'll have a link to a few things that would apply to more public knowledge. That's a lot of it's up to them, but it's things that are countywide is most important. The other thing would be, well, I guess on that, we'll have to figure out a time frame on policy procedures admin, because if we're gonna look at different ones, I guess we can decide next week kind of what we want to do on that, because that's gonna take a little more time. We can probably just take a couple of those at a time going forward to try to get some of those done.
So you're saying if we look at a template, what do they have? As far as
Yeah,
elected
Yeah, that's
versus
good. That's
appointed
good.
and,
That's gonna direct us a lot, I think.
I think probably if you read any of them through, it will give you a better idea of what we need to discuss.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's Shawnee County or John.
Like that statute regarding officers.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that for this here, we're gonna set this policy, you know, I mean, so it's gonna be self-driven a lot once we get those connected.
okay. Oh, one thing I noticed in signing the bills today is that we had a 154 account debited from a department. And I know Sherry's been turning in purchase orders for all of those. That was the account we wanted purchase orders on, correct? The 154 capital,
Yeah.
Okay.
capital outlay.
okay. That's how I remembered, but I just want to
That's good.
reiterate to
Yeah.
them.
Sounds correct.
Okay,
And those report those back as per project.
yes,
Versus
yes.
doing whatever.
Because Mark had sent an end of year remaining balance, so we. Last year, when we went through budget season, we took this into consideration of what was rolled over.
Yeah.
When we start having those discussions, so. Just making sure that. And then you had mentioned next week hospital, I took a note.
Yeah, and what that is, like, Chase, I'll say his name wrong, I'll say Chase, it's got a different last name, Dzinski. So he's a CFO at Amberwell, and it's this rural, hospital initiative, it's a grant that comes through from the feds, and I'm gonna get this kind of loose here, because I'm not gonna get the details, because I don't have them for sure. Someone else, probably the county, has to be their third-party administrator to keep, at arm's length for them, for their funding. So he's gonna come next week to go through that. He's gonna send the emails. He's gonna send it to all of it to Michelle. He'll send all that to us as far as his presentation.
Okay.
But all we are is just, we understand is we'll have an account that this money gets dumped into. And then every so often we have to give money to the hospital. And we're just holding the account. And it's part of how they're set up, how their funding is set up with the federal government stuff. So with the state, how it's set up. But anyway, we'll know more next week. But when you get that email, that's in general what it's about. It shouldn't cost us anything. We're just like a repository. That's my understanding.
Is that for like the rural opportunity zones where they pay for their people?
Well, it's not, it's called it's called different. Rural hospital something.
Gotcha.
I give it all the words.
So will we be subject to even like our audit take?
I don't
mean,
I don't know. I don't know anything except what I just.
I mean,
told you.
because
So,
that's the first thing to me is like,
It's being
what-
done.
how
It's
much,
common.
and I don't know. This is the
Yeah.
first I've heard. It. So my first things is like, how much time would that take for our staff? And then what
Sure.
liability will that be? Because if something would happen or whatever, are we insured for that additional fund?
Right.
If,
Right.
because you gotta cover everything
Oh, yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
touching.
I got the approach, it's pretty common, routine,
Generic.
standard thing. But well, I think good question, it's a good question. That's all right. It's just, let's find out.
Mhm.
I did ask him to do with Michelle because as a county commissioner, I'm not gonna be the one transferring money around and stuff.
Mhm.
So I said, meet with her and kind of go with her ahead of time too. So-
Absolutely.
So hopefully before next week, he'll talk to Michelle. We'll get his PowerPoint or whatever he sends, and you look at it ahead of time, and then he'll be here.
Yeah.
I think it's 11 o'clock in that one email. So that's just a heads up, all right.
Okay, thank you, because yeah, that's something new.
But he sent me an email. I just got to Texas and I get this email. I'm trying to figure it out. So I said, well, so I called him yesterday, kind of touched base on it. And he actually had questions for the people above him that he's dealing with this whole thing. He's trying to get some clarity on a few things I threw at him. So
Yeah, and if that is a typical situation in other counties, or the counties actually doing it for, in other rural counties.
we'll find out
or-
more. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are my first initial questions, so.
the other thing, I didn't give you this with the ARPA. I had forgotten, but I had an email from Valley Hope. Did you guys get any of those?
Yeah, and she actually emailed me today during our meeting to
That's
say,
right. Yeah.
do you work with Dr. Rivas? Because she had emailed all of us, I believe. You got it too,
It's
right?
been a while,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah, and I
It's been, what,
responded
6
to,
weeks ago, probably.
Yeah. and then I responded to her, and then she said that you had mentioned there was a meeting January 31st, but
Yeah,
she apologized for
Yeah.
creating confusion. So,
yeah, because I thought, well, I'll find out more about this ARPA stuff then. It sounds like we're gonna kind of delay any other community involvement for a little while. And so that's kind of where we're at, as far as I can tell. It's kind of on hold, I guess. Did she
Yeah.
actually fill a form out, send it in?
she sent us the blank form and asked questions. I don't know that she
Right.
filled
Right,
it
there's some
out,
questions.
but I saved it so I can look, but
Yeah, well, I don't think she actually turned the form in, so I was kind of like, well. I don't know, they got a big project they're doing, yes, I think they're starting it, so I said. I have no clue if we're going to help fund anything else or not.
Yeah, she sent the blank form just because, back then we had the date of September 4th on it. Completed
right.
paper, and so she was asking about that, but I said, oh yeah, disregard that, you can still submit. I mean,
Okay.
we'll keep them and we can discuss them, sometime when we have. I don't like to let anyone know if they want to put something into us.
So anyway, so as far as the ARPA, we're gonna have to probably take a timeline to make some
Yeah.
decisions, because otherwise.
Well, and that's why I keep putting it on there, of the courthouse costs and road and bridge, like, there's, which actually, we need to decide when the next, road and bridge workshop will be too. But, yes,
Is there
because
anything
county,
update on that?
no, but county focuses, penciling in what these dollar amounts are gonna be, so we can plan, because it's a big chunk still, which can be dwindled if a project comes to fruition, but we gotta keep it moving forward, so.
Yeah, we depend on some stuff on, especially the road and bridge and all that, we're gonna move forward with the facility or anything, we got to get some. Even if our numbers doesn't work out, we gotta get a number plugged in and hold
Yeah.
until we get some bids.
Awesome. We just got an email, IT Wes is setting up, with all of our department heads to do the training for the new website, so that's awesome. He's going to get each department doing their own part, so it's not all on him. Like it has been in the past, is like, I don't know how I can keep up with everything, but so he sent that out. I thought there was something else.
Back on Memorial Hall, do we need to send any kind of, you mentioned today, some of the changes, do we need to send them any kind of a communication?
Probably should, just so it's in writing.
Is it what date, things like that?
You mean
So-
on the mowing?
Well, everything.
Housekeeping, cleaning, all the things.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's make a list and I can have Michelle.
Well, they have a meeting coming up, they said, when he said it's pretty quick, wasn't it? Like I
I
said,
didn't hear that.
I didn't catch them in their next meeting.
the way you talk. I got to be
He kind of deferred to Scott based on management,
Okay,
but.
but in all fairness, I mean, I think you need to go out a little ways, maybe in a couple of months, whatever the date is, we should just pick a date and say. As of that date, give them a chance to find people to do the job.
Well, and even right now with maintenance being short-staffed here, we don't really have the resources to
Right,
continue it, so, I mean. Okay, so it was housekeeping and mowing.
you said April 1st or something, that's gonna be before the mowing starts.
And that's the end of
Probably
the
still be
quarter.
done by then, hopefully, so.
I want to review that
Oh, and unlocking.
alcohol policy too, because I don't remember ever revoking that
Hold on.
option.
I'll have it. I know we deferred to the trustees, because I remember that conversation.
I don't think, I think that it's county policy, the county owned facility, I think we have to do more than just let the tenant make the decision. I think we would have to suspend them from the resolution.
Yeah, unless it's specific.
So the email from February 4th of 2021 from Patrick to us. Was the Memorial Hall trustees have been approached about leasing Memorial Hall for the semi-pro basketball games. The basketball league would like to sell alcohol to the public at the games. The rental would be $500 per game. The trustees are inclined to move forward with leasing the building for the games. The trustees are informally asking your thoughts on the matter. Pursuant K.S.A. 73-407, the management and control of Memorial Hall is vested in the trustees who are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. The statute further provides that the Board of Trustees shall have full authority to lease all or any part of the building for hire to any person or persons desiring to lease the same for a term not to exceed 1 year at a time, and the fixed rate and terms in which they shall charge. There is no prohibition against the sale or consumption of alcohol at the Memorial Hall. someone would need to procure a license to sell the alcohol before they could legally sell the alcohol. You can adopt a resolution to ban the sale of consumption of alcohol on all county property. I do not think that would be necessary here, as the trustees are willing to discuss the matter with you if you have any concerns.
I was under the impression that we had the ban in effect and that they would have had, that we would have had to have suspended that for.
What happened to the sports complex when that was asked about?
I thought it was because it was within so many feet of a school.
It was because
Like you
that
can't
was
park
the
in
school parking
school.
lot. People couldn't bring their own in because they were on school property. They themselves could bring it in and sell it there at the ballpark.
Oh, they could?
Yeah. I think that was suspended. But, and see, that's what, I had issues with, and they chose not to. Well, I mean, so many of the things that like the sports complex was marketed for was tournaments and this and that. Well, then, when there was no alcohol, the interest in tournaments fell flat. So, I mean, that didn't follow through with what, you know, and so that's what, going to a concert without buying a beer, it would be, you know, fall flat. I just want to make sure that, you know, all of the procedures are done correctly. It's just, I have a totally different recollection of what is currently in place and what would need to be done. I really don't think that that facility would, for a concert, would be conducive for that. The acoustics are different.
They had a lot of them back in the day, but you're right, it's changed.
The public has changed, the expectations of the consumer have changed, so it's a totally different animal out there.
The only other thing that I have, but county councilor's not here, is I've been asking for a update from Martha and K.S.A on the nuisances for 2023. But she responded that she requested for an update from Mr. Henderson a couple weeks ago as to the properties turned over to him to pursue legal action. So she's waiting on him and I'm waiting on her, and we just need to, we need to follow through on that process, because from a constituent standpoint, they want something done. And so I got, you know, and the current process is, well, defer to any KES who defers to our county councilor to, then we're just going in a circle and nothing's getting done. So we need to refine that process a little bit, in my opinion.
You want to address that with county councilor?
Oh, yeah. I was just, he's
where-
next on my thing, but then he had to step out. So I guess, and he gave his updates earlier on things. So.
Okay, so we want to put that on next week.
Sure.
I mean, not knowing how long that he will be gone.
I'm trying to see if there was anything else that I didn't. Are you guys going to the K.S.A County Commissioner Association meeting in
Okay.
April?
In Hayes?
Yeah.
No.
I have it on my calendar to go.
Okay, and I need to check with my husband's schedule, but I would like to go. They sent out the survey to talk about topics.
There,
So-
back in.
You did? What topics did you choose, if you don't mind me asking? I was gonna ask you guys if there's anything in particular, because those are so beneficial for so many reasons, but it usually is like we get there and everybody starts talking and then you're like, you know, I'd like to be
Well-
prepared with a topic if I can.
Let me see. I want to find.
I started filling it out and then I got to the topic piece and I'm like, yeah, I need to think about this for a minute and see if there's anything.
And that's KCCA.
Uh-huh. And that was another thing I was gonna bring up to you guys.
Oh, boy, I don't know what I put on there.
That's
I had
okay.
to save
It went away.
Well-
That's fine.
remember. I just put a couple ideas on there, but it was nothing deep.
Mhm.
Which you have in mind.
I don't know. I need to think about it. I need to take some time to,
Well, maybe there's a good example of the internet. What's the county government's role with the internet development? Well, that's reasonable. Throw that on there.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
um,
Working on these administrative policies and stuff. I mean, maybe if you go and I both go, there's a couple of, I don't know how they do this, like workshops and things probably you go to.
so I haven't been able to attend one of these yet. I've went to the K.A.Cs, but I've never gone to the K.C.C.A. They had an elected officials one in Marysville last year, and we kind of broke up in groups and did a tour and then kind of networked together, but.
What's the date on that? So this is K.S.A, right?
Mhm.
This is not.
KCCA, sorry.
KCCA.
That's why I plugged it in.
Kansas County Commissioners Association.
Yeah, I think I plugged it in wrong. So, if we have a meeting on Tuesday, then they're actually having a workshop on that Tuesday afternoon,
Oh,
I think.
I didn't even look ahead that far to see what those dates are.
It threw me off because I was gonna go to Hayes afternoon because we're meeting that morning, and then I saw they had an optional workshop or something that afternoon. I thought, well, I'm not gonna make that. Hayes that quick. You know, I flew an airplane out there.
Mhm.
But I have to fly to Chicago on Thursday evening, so it gets over about 11:30 on Thursday, but I might leave a little early, but you know, if we ride together, I mean, we can leave a little early if you don't mind.
Okay.
That's a long ways to take different cars.
We have to be careful.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. We'll talk about cruise.
Yeah, like crazy kids.
I was gonna fly out there, but I'm not current right now, so I don't get current quick enough.
One more thing I thought of that I wanted to bring up to you. I think it would be worth visiting with, it'd probably be worth us visiting with elected officials to start with, and then working with HR on a pay structure. Because I had a department head reach out to me on when you have comparable jobs in government, like the closest comparison would be obviously the city of Atchison, okay? And when they post like a clerk position with a pay scale range, it's up here from where ours are. And of course, when you're doing clerical work, you know, we need to be in the same ballpark with a wage scale. And again, going to kind of what electeds are doing with theirs, would be helpful probably of having that conversation of a uniform position. Because like for customer relations clerk, the range is $14.94 to $21.16. So it's a big range.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. I mean, obviously, experience levels and all that.
Right, but for our clericals that are sitting at a wage of, wow, the opportunity there. I've been a clerk here for 3 years. I have experience, you know, making sure that we are offering the same pay scale or similar so that we can keep and retain good employees.
We're also competing with everybody in town as far as anybody who's an administrative focus.
No,
office, so-
no, absolutely.
And there's a lot more skill sets in those areas than there used to be. I mean, between all the, you know, computer knowledge and just, you've got the right personality to deal with customers, taxpayers, so it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up because that was one thing that I had mentioned to Jody about it, because it was brought to my attention of like, why wouldn't someone in my office want to apply there when they can make $3 more an hour, whatever it may be. That's just.
Because I think benefits are pretty similar, but as far as the hourly payment is a difference.
Yeah. And maybe, I mean, I don't know how ours are, if we have that range or if it's more, if it's more narrow, but that could be something to talk about as we approach budget season and visiting with our department heads. So. Okay. At, county counselor updates, did you see the email from Northeast Kansas Environmental? Martha?
Today.
She said she asked you a couple weeks ago for an update on the
Yeah.
nuisance properties, so.
I haven't looked through it. There were a couple of them, 3 or 4 that, one of them was the Garrison property. One of them is a property that the owner is gone, like maybe in prison. But no, I haven't looked through it in any detail.
Okay. We'll put that on next week. Did you have any other updates?
No, that's my make that.
Okay, any
Well, can you give us an update next week on the road and bridge agreements between the adjoining counties? I know that there's some, where I got the impression, some are in the process, some are stalled out or whatever. I'm not sure what the right words are. So we can get be next week maybe on that.
Yeah, we've sent it, I can tell you now, where we've sent the draft of the agreement to Doniphan County. That's the only one that we have actually sent out. And I haven't heard anything back from their county attorney, so. But yeah, that would be a good thing to, I'll follow up on it this week.
Okay, any executive sessions needed? Okay. Public comment? No public comment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We adjourned at 1:06 p.m.
Way it's over.